Hello, good morning everyone. Thank you so much for being here in person. It's fantastic to have in-person events again. I'm excited. I know our other speakers of the day are excited. Many of you in the room will be either moderating or speaking. So as I said, my name is Jane Judge. I am the newest member of the AI4Growth team and absolutely delighted to already be here for the flagship event of 2022. We're excited to be able to be part of the EU, the European, and the Belgian AI Week. So remember, as you're here today, we're focusing a lot on Flanders, of course, and specifically companies in the Ghent region. But that's not all we're doing. But remember that there are all kinds of events going on, both live and in person, this entire week about AI throughout the EU. So just something to keep in mind. If you want to be part of, let's say, the digital world, sharing all of these things, you can always use the hashtag EU AI Week on Twitter. You can also follow AI4Growth on Twitter. We will be live tweeting this. It's also being live streamed from the wonderful people at Broadcaster behind us. So you're not that interested in what I'm doing here. You're here to see some fantastic speakers today and talk about, of course, artificial intelligence in all of its glory, which also means, of course, maybe thinking about some of its negatives. But I'll leave that to our speakers for later. Now I would like to give the word for the warm welcome today on Sabine Demey, the director of the AI Flanders research program at IMEC, and Matthias Fees of ML6. So a big round of applause for Matthias and Sabine. Thank you very much.
Welcome all to the AI for Your Business event. So this is a joint collaboration between Flanders AI and AI4Growth. As one of the founding partners of AI4Growth, I'm very happy to welcome you all and extremely grateful that we can do this in person as well. So today it's really to showcase the different initiatives, both from the Flemish government as well as from the industry, to show how they can reinforce each other and make sure that Flanders can be a region to thrive and to really pioneer in AI.
Also from the side of AI Flanders, a warm welcome to you, to the people here in the room, but I know there are also quite some people that will be following us through the streaming. As Matthias already mentioned, this event really is a collaboration, as is a lot of AI activities that we do in Flanders. The collaboration between companies, universities and research centers, government, the citizens, is really crucial for the success. And I hope that you will see through quite some examples today that Flanders is already actually doing quite a good job in this. For instance, in this morning program, you will see we will split up after the plenary session into parallel tracks. There will be a track for companies, more focused on the journey of applying AI at companies, making business cases, looking at critical success factors of implementation, looking into ethics and AI. And there's also a second track, track B, which will focus more on the research topics, and some top researchers, mainly from Flanders, will bring you into a deep dive on a selected topic of research, things that we have been doing in the previous years.
All right. Sorry. What we also focus on is showcasing how the AI sector can help other sectors to create really impact. And this will be the topic of this afternoon. So we'll basically focus on 6 different industries, showcasing examples, what we can do, real use cases. This is not a complete list of industries that can be tackled, also not a complete list of use cases. So these are really as illustrations and inspiration for you to come up with solutions to your own situations, given that we really believe that AI has the impact and the potential to really be a game changer for all industries. And we're looking forward to create that impact together.
So let's really start with the presentations. And the kickoff will be brought to you by our Minister of Economy, Science and Innovation. It's Minister Hilde Crevits. And she has a video message for you. The message will be in Dutch, but you can, of course, always afterwards ask for more explanation. And of course, quite of the things she is mentioning will be mentioned throughout the day also.
Hallo allemaal en hartelijk welkom. Gisteren heb ik hier al even het belang van artificiële intelligentie voor Vlaanderen aangehaald en ook benadrukt dat we fier mogen zijn op ons sterk Vlaams AI-ecosysteem. Dat vertaalt zich in een terechte substantiële overheidsinvestering van meer dan 147 miljoen euro vorig jaar. Een belangrijk onderdeel is het specifieke Vlaamse AI-plan, waarvoor de Vlaamse regering jaarlijks iets meer dan 32 miljoen euro uittrekt. Straks komen de diverse onderdelen van het Vlaamse AI-plan inhoudelijk aan bod. Zelf wil ik hier een iets minder bekend onderdeel van ons plan uitlichten, namelijk de maatschappelijke impact en het belang van AI voor individuele mensen. Artificiële intelligentie is overal, ook op momenten of in situaties waar we dat helemaal niet vermoeden. Zo helpt AI bijvoorbeeld bij het afsluiten van de verzekeringspolies en beheert het ook autonoom uw aandelenportefeuille. Maar het helpt ook om bijvoorbeeld landbouwgewassen op het veld selectiever te besproeien, olievlekken op zee sneller te detecteren en het heeft de kracht om sneller nieuwe medicijnen te ontwerpen en produceren. De komende jaren zal die kracht van AI alleen maar toenemen. De verwachtingen over wat de technologie ons in de toekomst nog allemaal kan bieden zijn torenhoog. Maar om die verwachtingen ook effectief te kunnen inlossen, is het essentieel dat er meer inzicht en kennis rond AI is, zodat mensen er zelf mee aan de slag kunnen. Maar vooral omdat men het dan ook meer gaat vertrouwen in plaats van wantrouwen. Het is ontzettend belangrijk dat we alles heel goed maatschappelijk kaderen en potentiële uitwassen preventief inperken. Onderzoek en innovatie naar AI dient altijd gekoppeld te worden aan maatschappelijke voorwaarden en aan het respecteren van onze normen en waarden, waaronder onze privacy. En om mensen meer te betrekken bij het hele AI-verhaal en dus ook om dat vertrouwen op te bouwen, werd vorig jaar de Amai-oproep opgesteld. Het is een project waar ik heel erg trots op ben. Amai brengt AI-experts en burgers samen rond 4 thema's: klimaat en milieu, mobiliteit, gezondheid en werk. Voor elk thema wordt een slimme AI-oplossing ontwikkeld. Uiteindelijk werden 4 voorstellen geselecteerd, waarmee KMO's en hogescholen samen aan de slag gaan. Gedurende 1 jaar krijgen ze daarbij voldoende financiering om een prototype te ontwikkelen. Doordat deze AI-oplossingen samen worden ontwikkeld, ontstaat er meer vertrouwen en kunnen er ook meer opportuniteiten ontstaan voor AI-bedrijven. En dat resulteert dan weer in meer werkgelegenheid en welvaart in Vlaanderen. Een pure win-win dus. Ik heb het volste vertrouwen in het Amai-project om een veilige en betrouwbare toekomst van AI hier in Vlaanderen te garanderen. Daarom zal er ook meteen een tweede oproep opengesteld worden in september. Ik nodig iedereen alvast uit om mee te doen. Morgen stellen de 5 projecten uit de eerste ronde zich hier al even voor. Dus ga zeker ook eens luisteren en laat je inspireren. Tot slot wil ik jullie van harte bedanken voor de aandacht en wens ik jullie nog een bijzonder inspirerende dag en week toe.
Okay. So after this message from Minister Crevits, I'm happy that I can explain you more about the initiative AI Flanders that Minister Crevits was mentioning. I'm Sabine, I'm director of the Flanders AI Research Program. I'm also part of IMEC. I will explain later on how this AI research program fits into the AI Flanders plan as a whole. But I would like to start with another reflection. The reflection on, imagine now a world without AI. What would that mean? For instance, if you are looking at applications in health, we aim for living a healthy life for longer at an affordable cost. So we're very much interested in precision medicine, personalized medicine, predictive preventive care. Question is, would we be able to do that without AI? Other application area in energy. Sustainable energy is an important topic of concern. Energy production, distribution, consumption. So, for instance, windmill farms, how can we optimally control them? How can we do prognostic health management of them? Also, how can we guarantee a fluent electricity distribution to the households, given the new evolutions with electric cars and so on? Will we be able, or could we be doing this without AI? More in general, I think we all know we can have quite some important challenges in society. Look at the Sustainable Development Goals of UNESCO. Again here, would we be able to do that without AI? My point is, choosing and adopting AI is a decision, but also to continue without AI is also a decision. And don't understand me wrong, I'm not here to convince you that you should apply AI to every problem that you face. What I want to offer you today is, and together with some of our speakers, is what are inspiring examples? What, if you decide to cope or to adopt AI, who can help you with that? AI Flanders, for instance, is one of the initiatives that is there to help you, to support you in the adoption of AI. Because we do believe that AI is very valuable if we think about, we aim for a human-centered, as you see, human-centered, sustainable digital future, really taking into account the well-being of people and our planet. But also, of course, we're interested in innovation and economic growth. And in Flanders, we're really able to do that. We have a very good ecosystem. We're also very well embedded in a European and international ecosystem. And also with these goals, we are a lot in line with the European ambition for the digital agenda for 2030. Big words, but let's make it a bit more concrete now. I invite you really to get inspired by AI examples in Flanders. I think we hear a lot about AI examples, but don't forget also in Flanders a lot is happening. A lot of companies are already applying AI. The AI barometer study has been published and has been announced a few days ago. The numbers showed that from the companies that were asked, 25% is adopting AI, which is a very large number, and we're doing very well here compared to other regions in Europe. So, yeah, really get inspired by the companies in Flanders that do apply already AI. You have here the site digitaletoekomst.be. It's in Dutch, but yeah, you will see quite some nice examples. But also later today in the afternoon program, quite some examples, and you see them here in various domains, will be shown to you. What I will talk about myself is more about the AI Flanders program. And what you see here are the three pillars in the program. The AI research program, the first. Second is more focused on supporting the implementation of AI at companies and organizations by VLAIO. And third is a combination of a set of what we call supporting activities, but not the least, of course, it's about skills, ethics and legal and citizen projects, the IMEC project Minister Crevits was mentioning. I will walk you through each of these topics, and what I will also try to illustrate is that how these interact and how in Flanders we are collaborating with a lot of stakeholders to realize this. Mapping this on the program of today, in the morning, so we will split up into parallel sessions. So the track B will focus on the results of the AI research program. In track A, you will see initiatives or results from the implementation part and the supporting activities part. Flanders AI research program. It started mid-2019. We are with about 350 researchers, and you see the 10 consortium partners, so all Flemish universities are involved, but also the strategic research centers, as they are IMEC, Flanders MEC, Vito VIB, and also Series Data Center is involved. And IMEC is the coordinating partner of this program. So as you see, 90 professors involved, about 140 PhD students, and also we closely collaborate with Agoria, VOCA, also the hogescholen in Flanders. It's a strategic basic research program. What does that mean? You see here, the technology readiness levels. For people who are not that familiar with them, TRL1 means fundamental research, and then we think of FWO grants, for instance. TRL9 means really a market-ready innovation or product. With the AI research program, you see where we focus on TRL2, 3, 4. So not a fundamental research. We already have some ideas and demands we work on. I will explain later on what they are. And we work till the status where we have an experimental proof of concept in the lab. And from there on, there are other mechanisms, for instance, the Pillar 2 with supporting the implementation, and you see also there's some initiatives from VLAIO to support the further development or take up the research into further and higher technology readiness levels. Well, you also see here the results since mid-2019. We have more than 500 publications, peer-reviewed publications of the program. You will find them on our website. You will see later on the website address in case you didn't see it yet. Then you will find there the publications, but also code that is supporting these publications. So in case, and I'm addressing here companies who are also looking into the more advanced topics and the research topics, dig into the publications, dig into the code, contact us if you have more if you need more information or you want to start experimenting with the research results. So I already mentioned that we are not doing fundamental research, we are doing demand-driven research. From an analysis of from talking with companies and organizations back in 2018, 2019, some domains were identified that are strategically important for Flanders and in which the adoption of AI was really identified as being very important. And so you see the domains, and the health domain already talked about, industry domain, of course, manufacturing industry being very important in Flanders, but also energy and also applications for society, so for governments, for citizens. And what we have seen from the applications in these domains and the needs, so based on the needs, we have made our choice what to focus on, because you can do a lot in AI and in AI research. But within the program, we are focusing on the 3 topics you see here. First is human-centered AI. What does it mean? I'm talking here about trustworthy AI. I'm talking also about explainable AI. I'm also talking here about how to make AI systems collaborate seamlessly with people. The future is not an AI company or factory with only AI systems. You have the people there that need to interact with those AI systems. Secondly, energy efficient AI, sustainable AI. At this moment, AI is using tons of energy for storing data, for transferring data, for training the models and so on. So we really need to look at methods that are less energy consuming, for the sake of consuming less energy, but also application-wise. We are looking into AI that can run on a wearable device. And also there are applications for which we do not want or do not have the time to go back and forth to the cloud. So we want the AI to run in wearable devices, so we need energy efficient AI methods and hardware, as you will see later. Third topic, I think most people who are already using AI, that they know that using the pre-processing of the data, collecting the data, data wrangling as it's called, takes a lot of time. So we are, and also the big amount of data is not always available. We are not Google, we are not Facebook. So we are also looking into methods that can work efficiently, can have good results, even if the data set is small. And how do you do that? By combining data with knowledge, by combining knowledge and reasoning, by involving expert knowledge, so the hybrid AI methods. In general, we are interested in what we call productive AI. It should be AI with which companies see that they can have, they can increase their productivity. For people who are more interested in the technical details, so to the left you see our needs on high level. To the right you see the different, what you call the grand challenges, the technological grand challenges that are part of the Flanders AI research program. And in the coming slides I will show you a few results of the previous years. I will, for instance, on energy efficient AI, very recently an AI chip was released that really has record high energy efficiency, as you see. So this will allow us to bring deep neural networks to our IoT edge devices. Other examples, and I'm looking here at challenge 1, which is called in general the AI-driven data science. For instance, we are looking into AI methods on graphs, and also, for instance, explainability and fair AI on graphs. Other methods we are looking into with good results is, for instance, tensor methods for machine learning. It's really impossible for me to show here all the results. You remember we have 140 PhD students, so but what I've selected here is to give you a glimpse on what are the research topics that we are doing in the research program, and that we are kind of taking, let's say, the next steps and try to make generic methods that can be used in several applications. For instance, collaborative AI systems. We are also looking, for instance, in collaboration between humans and AI systems, as I mentioned. And so we are involving also social scientists in this to figure out or to study what are individual preferences of people and how do they want and do they interact with AI systems. Or for instance, we are looking into benchmarking several multi-agent systems. Another very nice results in the frame of data efficient AI, we have a very nice method for classification of images without having to label them. So in any application that requires classification of images, this is really a very nice method that reduces your time and manual work for labeling. So I already mentioned it's really impossible for me to talk about all the results. Some of the results will be tackled in track B later this morning. For instance, I think I will put them all in order. The first is on hybrid AI, as I mentioned. How can you embed your expert knowledge in your AI? Second topic will be on conversational agents, how to converse with your AI system. And the third session also fits more into the productive AI. How can you automate your AI? What you also see is another session, which is not today, but tomorrow, a session on AI in the edge, tomorrow from 9 to 1. I already mentioned the Genetic Research Center research challenges, but it was also a very important element in the research program, or the demonstrators. What it means, I will show some examples. And with those demonstrators, we really apply our research methods to the applications, and I hope this will inspire you. And that's what we see when we present them to companies and organizations. And also very interesting, it allows us to hear new research challenges. So what is such a demonstrator or use case we are working on in health, for instance? We are looking at epileptic seizure detection at home. So not patient going to the hospital for hospital monitoring, but a patient or people, a citizen, having a wearable device that will allow to do ambulatory monitoring and give a warning if an epileptic seizure is coming up. So what does it come down to? It's, and you see the signals below, it's having AI on time series. It's finding out from this set of time series when an epileptic seizure is about to come. Another application we are working on, wind farms. How can you, and I already mentioned it before, improve the production? How can we do a better maintenance of wind farms? Why did I start these two to start with? Because, in fact, they really lead to such a generic research challenge that I mentioned. Because in both cases, it's about detecting, predicting abnormal situations in time series. So it's about AI methods on time series, which can be applied to detect anomalies or upcoming defects at windmills, but also, for instance, for epileptic seizure detection. So we're looking into time series. We are looking, for instance, in how can multiple sensors improve the results, so work in a multimodal way. How can different methods be combined for better detection? And as I mentioned earlier, results are also improved if we can combine data with reasoning, if we can introduce expert knowledge into our AI models. And in fact, a very nice results from our students. The last challenge, well, it was 2020, but it was the last challenge on epilepsy detection. They won that challenge. And especially they had a very low false alarm rate, which is very important, of course, if you don't want to give an alarm to a patient every 2 minutes that there might be a seizure coming up. And we're continuously improving these methods. And so we are not doing the research on it, and I'm here making the link already to another aspect in the AI Flanders program via the Flanders AI Academy. Our researchers are also in a bi-weekly training session presenting their results, and you can follow that, and you can see the course on VLAIO.be is the website. So this is also a way in which we outreach our results to companies and organizations. Other demonstrators or use cases in the manufacturing industry. AI-assisted operator here. You see also an operator that is assisted with speech and with camera to improve the assembly. And in fact, it's really collaborating between robots and people to be very flexible, and it's really up to personalized and mass customization in manufacturing. That's the goal here. Other things we are doing in industrial applications and anomaly detection, preventive maintenance. And within the research program, we are comparing different methods. So several university groups are working on different methods. So we bring them together on one use case, and we compare them on accuracy, energy efficiency, data efficiency, because the goals for companies are often different. Some people or some companies really are most interested in the most accurate. Other companies or other applications really are interested in the most data efficient solution. And so with this comparison, we can give advice to companies on which methods perform the best on the different criteria. Another use case demonstrator, which we also did, and you see we started it when the COVID started, because we got a request, it's mainly you hustled together with some university groups, got a request from multiple sclerosis centers. What is the effect of COVID-19 on MS patients? And they noticed that each center on its own did not have enough patients to be able to make a reasonable guess or a reasonable assumption or reasonable decisions on that. So what they did, so they really put their efforts together, and with the support of the AI Flanders, but of course also with some other organizations, a platform was set up, and as you see, lots of patient information is now collected from different labs across 80 countries, which really allowed now to give some reasonable advice to all centers. And for people involved in this, you know that an important aspect here, of course, is privacy. So this is really a federated learning platform that has been set up, so taking care of the privacy of all patients on one hand, and secondly also setting a whole pipeline of preparing the data so that the time that we need now for preparing the data is really reduced, which you see with 75%. So this is all illustrating our research methods for real use cases. Another use case in energy I already mentioned. You're, for instance, looking together with Fluvius, Vito Energyville, at the electricity distribution network, and a method here was set up to improve the creation of accurate maps, because the current network apparently is not very accurately mapped, and an AI-supported interactive tool has been made based on KISS data to lay the basis of the future decision-making on those networks. I can tell lots of other applications, so do visit our website or contact us if you want to know more about these applications. I would like to step now into the second point, the implementation track, which will also be handled more in track A this morning. Several aspects there, and VLAIO is the main driver and the coordinator organizer of this second pillar. They are providing, and most people are probably aware of that, public funding for companies. For what? For R&D projects in AI. And this can be done with universities, research centers, or without. And also funding for AI implementation, really targeted at SMEs. And you see some of the initiatives that they have, and VLAIO will certainly explain you, or be able to explain you more about these tools. But also looking into collective knowledge building and dissemination. And an example I would like to show here are the TETRA projects. These are collaborations mainly with university colleges, hogescholen, and with companies. And for instance, they have recently finished a project on AI in marketing, also for SMEs. And it will be presented also later today. And I already mentioned a close collaboration with Agoria, Series Voca, IMEC, to give info and advice to companies, to provide inspiration sessions, to coach the companies. Third pillar, supporting activities. First on skills, very important topic also mentioned by Minister Crevits, and we are active there at several areas. There are projects, for instance, at schools. There are projects for skill improvement on the shop floor for professionals. I would like to highlight one of the initiatives. It's the Flanders AI Academy, VLAIO. On the one hand, it's a platform that collects and promotes the trainings that there are in Flanders, but there are also quite some new training courses that they organize, often with other people involved in the AI Flanders program. They have a very nice website in which you can select whether you're a professional, a researcher, a beginner, an expert, the domain you want a training on. And as it's mentioned, it's a collaboration with all the universities and hogescholen in Flanders. Another part in the third pillar, the knowledge center, data and society. And by the way, they have a very nice stand over there, so be sure to visit them later on. I'm mentioning here one of their tools, but they have a lot more tools, and they also assist companies on ethical aspect, legal aspects. So be sure to visit them. And there's also a session on them later today. And this is the AMAI project, but Minister Crevits already explained it more in detail. There has been one set of projects already been approved, and there will be a second call for new projects. We are, of course, also internationally linked, so we are looking into Horizon Europe projects. We are also looking into other organizations, the CLARE initiative, the Nederlandse AI coalition. We hope that by linking with other initiatives, we can also improve our activities. To conclude, I would like to post also a save the date. As you see here, beginning of June, the Flanders AI will organize a Flanders AI forum in Antwerp. That's my final slide. So you see that again, the three pillars from AI Flanders. You see some websites. Please do visit them. Contact me. Contact the people mentioned on these websites if you want to know more information. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Sabine. So thank you. That was a great overview. And in fact, I'd like to commend you, first of all, on the breadth of it, but also on just how many use cases you were able to bring. And indeed, it's those use cases and the numerous industries and all of the different ways that AI touches us that our next speaker is going to talk about, because of course that does raise some ethics questions and questions of society and questions of how we live with AI and how we're going to move forward with it. So I'd like to introduce Marloes Pomp for you. She's also bringing an international element to us today because she's here for the Dutch AI Coalition. And indeed, she is an expert on public services and social assignments when it comes to being a tech enthusiast. So I don't want to give her too long of an introduction because, as we know, time is always short in these kinds of things. So Marloes, the floor is yours.
Oh, yeah, I have a mic. Sorry, that's... Ja, gaat dit? Ja? Ik zie ze niet. Oh, mijn slides zitten er niet tussen. Ja, nou. Oké, dan. Ik zat een beetje te twijfelen. Ik was gevraagd om in het Engels te presenteren, maar ik ben echt back-off. Dus ik ga het toch in het Nederlands doen. Mijn slides zijn in het Engels. Dus ik hoop dat de mensen die luisteren en Engels spreekt zijn, dat die het kunnen volgen. En zo niet, dan ben ik bereid om het volgende week gewoon alsnog even een keer in het Engels te doen. Waarom ben ik back af? Ik had vorige week een post op LinkedIn gezet. Ik kon het niet meer aanzien. Ik dacht, ik ga moeders en kinderen bij de grens ophalen. Dat heb ik ook gedaan. Ik ben naar de grens met Polen gereden. Alleen dat is helemaal uit de hand gelopen, want er bleek heel veel mensen zijn die dat wel wilden doen. Dus ja, ik heb nu zo'n 100 busjes, touringcars, auto's op de weg. Dus het is een constant appen en ik heb dag en nacht doorgewerkt. Maar ik wilde heel graag wel bij jullie zijn en ik ben ook heel blij dat het is gelukt. Dus ik hoop dat jullie me even vergeven dat het dan nu toch in het Nederlands is, want anders moet ik toch weer te veel nadenken. Ja, geweldig. Dank voor alle hulp. Ja, nou, eerst eventjes, wie ben ik? Marloes Pomp. Ik train al jaren topambtenaren binnen de overheid en ik train ze in allerlei nieuwe technologieën, blockchain, AI, quantum, wat ze maar willen. En ik werk sinds een aantal jaar zowel voor de Dutch Blockchain Coalition als de Nederlandse AI-coalitie. Binnen de Dutch Blockchain Coalition focus ik me vooral op Web 3.0, de metaverse en op dit moment DAO's, decentrale autonome organisaties. In Web 3.0 is het natuurlijk leuk, al die technologieën komen langzamerhand samen. Daarnaast werk ik ook voor de Nederlandse AI-coalitie. Ik werk vooral aan het opbouwen van internationale samenwerking. Op verschillende thema's, waaronder op ethiek. En daarnaast zit ik in allerlei advisory boards van de rechtbank, van allerlei start-ups en ook van FWO Vlaanderen. Nou, dan even, hoe zijn we georganiseerd binnen de Nederlandse AI-coalitie? Er zijn allerlei werkgroepen per sector. Dus er is een werkgroep voor health, voor energie, voor veiligheid, noem maar op. En daarnaast zijn er een soort horizontale bouwstenen, noemen we dat, voor meer generieke onderwerpen. Dus voor data ontsluiten, voor de ethische kant, wij noemen het de mensgerichte kant. Voor de... Gaat hier iets mis? De helft. Ik weet niet of ik dit kan fixen zo. Ik wil opeens iets vallen. Ja, laten we dit doen. Ja, dan krijg je de rest later van me terug. Ja, dankjewel. Nou, we hebben dus ook horizontale bouwstenen die eigenlijk samenwerken met al die andere werkgroepen. Daarnaast hebben we in Nederland, dus we hebben die AI-coalitie, dat is een publiek-private samenwerking met, nou, ik denk zo'n 500 organisaties en alle ministeries zitten daarin. Nou, die werken dan samen aan voorstellen van nou ja, hoe ze AI willen toepassen of waar ze aan willen werken. Daarnaast hebben we regio's door het land heen die zich weer focussen op specifieke onderwerpen. En tot slot hebben we een investeringsfonds. En dat is op een gegeven moment in het leven geroepen toen de rente heel laag was. Toen dacht men van, nou ja, laten we extra geld lenen en investeren in een aantal onderwerpen. Waaronder AI. En we hebben zo'n 276 miljoen gekregen om te investeren in AI. Nou, die werkgroepen bereiden allerlei voorstellen voor. En er worden nu allemaal calls voorbereid, zodat die werkgroepen ook hun projectvoorstellen of onderzoeksvoorstellen kunnen indienen. Dat is een beetje hoe het werkt. Nou, en in dat investeringsplan is er aandacht zowel voor de economische kant, er staat 2 keer economische kant, dat hoort niet zo, maar ook bij uitstek juist voor de ethische of human-centric aspecten. Dus dat is bij ons echt een heel belangrijk onderwerp. Nou, dat is ook logisch natuurlijk, want er zijn in al die sectoren, al die werkgroepen, liggen er allerlei kansen om AI in te zetten. Ontwikkelingen gaan ook heel snel, maar we zien aan de andere kant natuurlijk ook de schandalen toenemen. En ook de zorgen over hoe AI misbruikt kan worden. Nou, even heel hoog over. Er zijn natuurlijk verschillende aanpakken. Je hebt meer de kant zoals China kiest, meer vanuit de staat. Je hebt meer de kant vanuit de VS, waarbij de bedrijven een belangrijke rol spelen. En Europa ja, zit daar wat een beetje tussenin. En die hebben eigenlijk voorgesteld natuurlijk om die regulatie op te zetten. Nou, wij volgen dat en die Europese lijn. En we hebben een aantal, 7 key requirements staan daar ook in waar je aan moet voldoen. En dat zijn ook de requirements die we aan de projecten meegeven van denk erover na hoe je met deze 7 onderwerpen aan de slag gaat. Nou, wij hebben uiteindelijk een instrument ontwikkeld, de ELSA Labs. En die maken onderdeel uit van die ethische werkgroep, human-centric werkgroep. En die ELSA Labs die hebben weer een gedeelte van het investeringsgeld gekregen om te investeren in een heel netwerk aan ELSA Labs. Ons doel is om in Nederland zo'n 20-25 labs te krijgen. Maar ik ben hier omdat ik hoop dat ik ook met een aantal van jullie kan samenwerken om te kijken van kunnen we dat netwerk uitbouwen naar een Europees netwerk met ELSA Labs. Nou, wat zijn dat dan, die ELSA Labs? Het idee is dat al die labs een maatschappelijk onderwerp nemen, maatschappelijke uitdaging. Nu relevant misschien de vluchtelingencrisis, maar het kan natuurlijk ook klimaat zijn of onderwerpen op health. Het kan van alles zijn. En dat je dan met anderen gaat nadenken over de ethische aspecten, de juridische aspecten en de maatschappelijke aspecten. En dat betekent dat elk ELSA Lab, het is verder een vrij format, dus het is niet een mal. Maar we vragen op zijn minst dat je nadenkt over hoe ga je nadenken over de ethische kant. Wat zijn de juridische vragen waar je mee aan de slag gaat en hoe ga je burgers of maatschappelijke instellingen betrekken. Nou, en dan komen al die labs weer samen in de werkgroepen over die 3 aspecten. Dus het is wel de bedoeling dat die labs bijvoorbeeld de ethische kennis of hoe werk je samen met burgers of maatschappelijke instellingen, dat ze dat met elkaar gaan delen. Daarnaast is in het Nederlands begeleidingsethiek voor ons belangrijk. We hebben ook een hele groep die daarmee bezig is. En dat gaat eigenlijk vooral over leren door te doen. Veel iteraties maken, maar het gaat er ook heel erg over de mensen betrekken over wie het gaat. Dus er is bijvoorbeeld een lab in de maak die kijkt naar schuldproblematiek of kansongelijkheid. Nou, dan is het wel de bedoeling dat je nadenkt over hoe betrek je de burger zelf daarbij, die het betreft, en maatschappelijke organisaties die er al mee bezig zijn. Nou, en bij begeleidingsethiek is dan weer een methode waarbij al die stakeholders aan tafel worden gezet en dan wordt het gesprek begeleid over hoe willen we eigenlijk dat AI zou werken en hoe kijken we daar tegenaan. Bij die ELSA Labs, ik noem het al de hele tijd, het is dus belangrijk voor ons dat de burger zelf ook betrokken wordt. Maar ook, het is een samenwerking tussen dus private partijen, onderzoeksinstellingen en in veel gevallen ook overheden die daar per lab meedoen. Eigenlijk tot nu toe aan alle labs. Een lab, kijk, het is niet in beton gegoten, maar een lab bestaat voor enkele jaren. Tot nu toe, de meeste calls zitten op 2 tot 4 miljoen euro per lab, wat ze dan ter beschikking hebben. Wij mikken dus op funding voor in elk geval 20-25 labs in Nederland. En de procedure verloopt bij ons via MWO, dat zou bij jullie FWO zijn, maar dat kan via verschillende instrumenten. En die labs werken dus hoog over weer met elkaar samen. Deze dingen heb ik denk ik al genoemd. Jullie kunnen mijn slides ook allemaal krijgen. Dan kun je dit gewoon eens rustig doornemen. Maar het is denk ik interessant om even te kijken van wat voor labs zijn dan in de maak bij ons. De geel gearseerde, dat zijn labs die nu in de eerste ronde geld hebben gekregen. Dus die voor komende jaren nu ook aan de slag gaan. Die hebben elk rond de 2 miljoen gekregen uit het investeringsfonds. En de meeste hebben ook nog andere gelden opgehaald. Maar je ziet dat het echt een heel breed scala aan onderwerpen is waarop ze gaan samenwerken. En ik zal het zo nog even hebben over van dat Europese netwerk van ELSA Labs. Maar het kan natuurlijk ook zijn dat sommigen van jullie zeggen, hey, dat onderwerp, daar werk ik ook op. Ik zou graag willen meedraaien in het ELSA Lab op dat onderwerp. Dat is natuurlijk ook een optie. Nou, deze projecten hebben nu als eerste de funding en kunnen dus nu aan de slag. Deze is van Defensie. Dat gaat meer over AI-gebruik in het militaire domein. En zij gaan ook via de NATO kijken van kunnen ze dit lab verder uitbreiden. En dit gaat vooral dus over de ethische aspecten in oorlogstijd. En hoe ver kan Defensie of hoe ver wil je dat ze gaan. De tweede die gaat over AI in rampenbestrijding. En ook misschien het voorspellen van rampen, maar ook het optimaliseren van rampenbestrijding. Dat kunnen allerlei typen rampen zijn. We hebben natuurlijk een tijd geleden ook weer waterrampen gehad. Maar het kunnen allerlei typen rampen zijn. Een derde lab wat nu aan de slag gaat is AI, Media en Democracy Lab. En zij kijken vooral naar van hoe kunnen we, de grote techbedrijven hebben natuurlijk nu veel AI. En hoe kunnen media ook zelf gebruik maken van AI om te zorgen dat we binnen Europa, binnen Nederland, neutrale en goede mediavoorziening hebben. De vierde die gaat over AI voor Sustainable Food Systems. Daar zijn uiteraard ook de mensen in Wageningen bij betrokken. En de laatste die gaat, welke was dit? Oh ja, die gaat over healthy living, working and aging. Nou, er staan heel veel teksten op deze slides, dat kun je voor nu even vergeten. Je kunt ze gewoon krijgen en dan dat even lezen. Waar staan we dan even nu als programma? Er is een soort board die in de gaten houdt dat ook de samenwerking tussen al die labs goed verloopt en de kennisdeling wordt gedaan. Er is een ELSA Lab Office die ook de praktische ondersteuning kan doen. Er is dus een heel portfolio in de maak waarvan de eerste funding hebben, maar binnenkort zal een tweede call opengaan en dan zal de tweede ronde binnenkomen. Maar er zijn ook verschillende ministeries die zelf een lab willen funden. Dus in elk geval in het najaar, maar ik verwacht al eerder dat de tweede call open gaat. En we zijn nu vooral aan het kijken van hoe kunnen we dit uitbreiden op internationaal. Nou, daarvoor werken we in elk geval samen met Claire. Claire gaat ons helpen om binnen Europa het netwerk aan labs uit te bouwen. Voor het defensiedomein, daar zit Claire wat minder op, zijn we met de NATO aan de slag om te kijken, kunnen we daar het netwerk uitbouwen. En er is een European AI Forum. Dat is eigenlijk een samenwerking tussen allerlei nationale AI-coalities, samenwerkingsverbanden. En die hebben 2 keer per jaar een forum. De volgende zal in juni zijn. Die wordt dan voorgezeten door ook het land wat sowieso voorzitter is van de Europese Commissie. En dat is dus dit keer in Parijs. En daar proberen we ook te kijken van, kunnen we het netwerk wat uitbreiden. Nou, en ik ben hier, het is natuurlijk een beetje puur promotie van zo'n concept. Maar mijn boodschap is vooral ook van, we staan echt aan het begin van die internationale samenwerking. En ons concept is niet in beton gegoten. En het is denk ik ook leuk om de couleur lokaal toe te gaan voegen. Elk land zal weer zijn eigen aanpak, zijn eigen ideeën erover hebben. Maar ik ben dus ook heel erg benieuwd naar andere ideeën of aanpakken die we misschien kunnen toevoegen aan de aanpak zoals die er nu staat. En een andere optie is natuurlijk om te gaan kijken van welke labs zijn er nou in oprichting en is er een lab waar je aan zou willen meedoen. Dus laat ook vooral van je horen. Dit waren even mijn slides over dus de aanpak, leren door te doen, begeleidingsethiek en de focus op burgers betrekken. Iemand een vraag? Want volgens mij ben ik redelijk binnen de tijd gebleven. Is er iemand die iets meer over wil weten of die al zelf met iets bezig is? Of is het daarvoor te vroeg?
I have a question. I will ask it in English, but I know you were personally involved also, I think, in the whole Ukraine challenges. I've also seen in your slide the relation to NATO. Can you give a vision on AI and ethics in the military domain? So what can we expect there? Normally in the academic world, there are some people that do not like to work for the military domain, but I think nowadays we see maybe if we would have had even more and better technology, we could use it for the good, let's say, to defend ourselves. So can you give your personal opinion on that?
Yes, well, I'm not an expert on this exactly, but I think the war in Ukraine has changed the agenda of our parliament, but also it should change the agenda of AI coalitions in general. More practical, we don't even have to start in the military domain, but for example, all countries are now working on matchmaking, housing and refugees, transportation, refugees, which medical aid is needed where. So we could do a lot in building better AI models or more available in crisis situations like we do have today, because everybody is doing the same thing at this moment and there's hardly AI involved, all Excel sheets, what I'm seeing. So we can do this better, but also in the military domain, I think the opinion has been changed. And I think that's also the reason why we should start really quickly to have these conversations again with the companies providing tools or products in this domain, the government, but also us as a civilian. What's our opinion about this, or the refugees at this moment? So I think it's really important to have these conversations more and more. And the ELSA approach, but other instruments can be helpful for this. And the working group on AI and defense is now also closely working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the NATO, the companies, to start this and to speed it up. So I'm really curious about how this will change in time. And also, one something which comes to mind, sorry. Also very practical. When we started with bringing refugees to the Netherlands or to Germany, wherever they wanted to go, the discussion in our group was also, we're only helping the refugees, not the army, because of this sense of feeling. But now, when you talk with the refugees, it's not a military, it's their husbands, it's their father fighting. So it's more, the discussion is now more diffuse, I think. So what is the military at this moment? I don't know.
Okay, so let's thank Marlies for her presentation. So if you want to discuss more on ethic topics and maybe also on the impact of ethics on companies, there are a lot of legislation also from European perspective. We have a separate session that starts at 12 o'clock. Now we will have a 5-minute break. It gives you the opportunity to switch rooms. We start in 5 minutes here on a session on how to convince your own board on starting with an AI project that is in this room, and in the crypt, which is just around the corner here outside the room. We will start the technical sessions, and the first session will address also how to embed domain expertise in your technical algorithms. So thank you for now, and let's see each other back in 5 minutes.
Hello, good still morning. Welcome to this session. There are some technical issues here, thanks to that metal plate on this beautiful thing here. But we have a great technical team who is solving all the issues without AI, but still in the future we can use AI for also solving these issues. This is a session with 4 speakers. I'm the first one. I'll start immediately because time is very scarce, like everything in life. We have to make use of our time most efficiently. What I'm going to tell you about is the AI barometer. It has been released yesterday. It's a cooperation of Ecom, Story Ecom, IMEC, and the Knowledge Center Data and Society. I don't know if you already heard about the AI barometer. It's a measurement of adoption and use of artificial intelligence among Flemish companies. This year, well, 2021, has been the first time, and we would like to do that every year so that we are able actually to monitor the progress and evolution of the use and adoption of AI among Flemish companies. Yeah, my slides are in Dutch, apologies for that. We have been able to secure about 1,700 valid responses, and we were able to weigh them according to 2 criteria. The first one was the company size, and then the second one was the NACE codes, the sector, so many industries are included, and based on some statistical analysis, we are able to provide a full picture, a representative picture of those companies, of all Flemish companies. I'll go to some of the results very quickly. It has been released. You can check it online on the website of VLAIO, but also other websites. There's much more than this, but I just give you kind of a snapshot of where we are with AI in Flanders these days. According to the results, about 1/4 of Flemish companies already uses AI in its operations this day. I think that's quite a positive fact. Some 11% uses one technology, 2.1% uses 4 or more technologies in terms of AI. You also see that 13% has no use these days, but has some plans to do it, and some 60% says, well, actually, I don't see any value for my company in AI. Let's not use it. It will be interesting to monitor the progress of this adoption the coming years. There are some sectoral differences, however. For example, when we look at information and communication, we see that, well, it might be a bit difficult to see, I guess, but you see in the different columns, you see the different technologies that were surveyed. We see that information and communication sector is actually, well, the best performing in terms of AI adoption. IT companies, telecommunication companies, media companies, that's not a surprise. I think that this sector is a bit ahead. Another sector that's performing quite well, the technical scientific activities, by which we mean legal, accounting firms, consultancies. And a third sector that is doing well are the administrative and supporting services. Also interesting, for example, the industry is doing quite well on autonomous devices, autonomous vehicles like self-driving robots in warehouses, and process automation. No surprises, but it's also fun actually to see these results. At least I think that's fun. Next to the sectoral difference, we also have a difference in terms of company size. And there we see that large companies are doing better in terms of, well, there's no better or worse, but they have a higher adoption of AI in their operations. And that actually applies to all of these technologies. Adopting AI is never easy. They're always a bit there are some challenges, there are some hurdles. One of the biggest hurdles we found among adopters, but also especially non-adopters, is a lack of knowledge and skills and expertise among employees, existing employees and future employees. So that's one thing we need to continue to work on, continue to coach, to educate employees, people interested in AI. So there's still some work to do, I guess. Another big hurdle is that a lot of companies have difficulties to see applications of AI for their companies. They know AI, but they can't see how AI can really help them. And for example, you see that on top as well, a lot of companies don't see the value of AI for their company as well. So that's something we need to take into account. My last slide, in terms of the impact of AI, we see that those companies that use AI, that they see kind of a positive impact on competitiveness. Like 30%, they said, well, we have been able to release better or new services after we adopted AI. We're not saying this is thanks to AI or this is a causal relationship, this is only a correlation, but still, the half of it has seen an improvement of the processes within the company, and some 30% has also been able to reduce costs. So I think these are good arguments for those interested who see potential for AI in the company. I think these are good arguments to really consider the adoption of AI. Okay, that was it from my side. If you have more questions or if you're interested in the report, please contact me. I'll guide you through the many things there are on AI in Flanders. The next speaker is François Delfosse from Nova. I have to check actually. Indeed. Yeah, give you my mic, I would say. And then we have to see where your slides are. I don't know if somebody can help us or if you can help me. You were there.
Thank you, Tom, for this interesting introduction. It's very nice to see that the adoption of AI is already ongoing in Flanders with the statistics. Was it 30% approximately? Yeah, 25. So that's very nice. What would be very interesting is to see what is the amount of revenue that is enabled with AI. Is that the same amount? It's probably way lower. So I've been asked today to help you to understand how to defend an AI case to your company, to your board, to your exec summary. So before I go there, maybe a few words just about me. So I'm François Delfosse. I'm a co-founder, partner of Nova Reperta. My roots are technology. I'm a civil engineer in microelectronics, but I spent all my career, short one, 20 years, in management consulting. First at Altran, then being company in strategy, then at Euroclear doing transformation, and then I co-founded Nova Reperta in 2011. At Nova Reperta, beyond managing the company, I'm in charge of the Operation Excellence practice. I'm involved in a digital practice together with Omar Mohout, that some of you might know, and I'm accountable for the ESG aspects at Nova Reperta. Nova Reperta founded 2011. We're 60 in Benelux today. Our core business is actually strategy deployment. So we help large companies to finalize their strategy, to verify it, and then to turn that into impact. And how we do that, we verify that the strategy is achievable, realistic, that there's enough buy-in in the company around those plans. We turn that into a plan, we call that a value creation plan, and then we help to transform the company. And the transformation can be reorganization. We redesign the organograms to have an organization that is fit for the strategy. it can also be transform the way of working to be more agile, to be more customer-centric, or more efficient. This is it in a nutshell. So before I speak about the business case for AI, what is a traditional business case? Well, typically a business case is a kind of a rationale that you develop to defend a proposal, an initiative, a program. And what do? Typically, you make the link with the strategy of the company or a big challenge. Then you do a documentation on what is the benefits that you plan to make with your initiative. You look at what is the cost, the investments, and OPEX, CAPEX investment that are required, what are the risks associated to that. And ideally, you don't do that for one scenario, but you do that for different scenarios, so that at the end of the meeting, you can really push for the best preferred option to get to go and to go further. So that is the classical way of doing a business case. And this is in a context where I'm pretty sure you've been exposed to that in large corporation. There tends to be very large and important budget cycles. So there's a big, what in IT we would call a waterfall process, where in September of a year you have to define what you're going to do in the coming 3 years and give a high amount of details on how you're going to do that, with which costs, etc., etc. But as you know and as you feel for AI, it might be a bit different. So let's say you have your brilliant idea in your company and you enter the boardroom and the boardroom is looking at you. What's happening? This is a bit extreme, of course, but when just the fact that you enter the boardroom with an AI topic, the first thing you might need to do is to explain a little bit, to demystify AI, because every people in the room might just have a best guess of what AI is about. Whereas actually you really want them to fully understand what is important. And I'm pretty sure most of you have a better definition than AI than I do. What I want to stress here is that maybe what's important to highlight is the difference with regular software, regular programming, whereas regular software programming would be actually a definition of different scenario, and a program will actually operate within the planned scenario. Whereas with AI, it will more mimic human behavior. You will train an AI program will train to do a specific task, and it will evolve within that and improve. And as you know, humans are not perfect, and so some of this imperfection can as well be present in the AI world. So I think a key message there is that an AI program brings more uncertainty than a classical approach. The benefits, at the benefit side, it might be quite easy to quantify the benefit of the ideal AI application that is fully working, that is working 100% of the case. That might be easy to quantify, but often it's much more difficult to quantify the success rate of your application. You don't know upfront what is the error rate that is going to be there, and what is the cost that you will maybe need to have next to your AI solution to make it acceptable. And acceptable is, of course, depending on how critical is your application. Is it to help refugees in Ukraine? Is it to monitor a nuclear plant, or is it to make the best Spotify playlist for a person? You have different level of criticality, so this uncertainty is more or less annoying, I would say. On the cost side as well, it's very difficult upfront to know how long it will take to train. I think Elon Musk said a few years ago that within 6 months the Tesla would be fully autonomous cars. About one, by the way. It's still not, but there are, I don't know how many Teslas are there, 1 million above probably. So there are 1 million drivers training Tesla every day, and the car is still not able to fully drive autonomously. So the estimation on the quantity of data and the time that will be required is uncertain. So basically, how do you do a business case? How do you meet these boards and convince them with all level of details that you know where to go for? So I asked my best friend Google, so how do you deal with ambiguity, basically? And I spotted here just the first answer. First, give up to be able of the wish to have to know everything in detail. You have to learn to act without knowing every detail. The third one is as well interesting, plan for different scenarios, and then embrace change. There will be a lot of change involved. So this is about the context. So I want to share today a series of tips, 5 tips actually, on how to deal with that. So the first one I already disclosed is before entering the boardroom, know your board, know who is there, what is on their mind, what is the strategic agenda of the people. It can be on the company level or at personal level. This is one. And let them feel the differences between AI and a classical initiative. So don't be too technical in explaining what AI is, but spot the difference. Explain that timelines are more uncertain, that AI is a decision model. It's kind of a black box, but you can accept that, and it can be better than humans. And success is not guaranteed. So this is the first tip. The second tip is, and that's valid for any initiative actually, is create a sense of urgency. Why now? You come with a proposal, but why is it important to act now? Why do we need to unlock budget now for this initiative? Basically, you do that by making the link with the strategy. You speak the CEO language. You explain how your IE program will help to grow revenues, reduce cost, help to put new services in the markets. Another way is to say, okay, we have been struggling in the company for certain problems in the past. We have tried different things. Why not try AI to do this? We're not sure it's going to work, but let's try. Let's give it a try. So this is the second strategy. The third one that I've experienced personally with Reperta is link it with a compelling event. We had a client that had an annual fair 6 weeks later, and that was 3 or 4 years ago, and they wanted to demonstrate something innovative. So we helped them to develop a blockchain application together with one of our venture, TwinTech, that some of you might know. And basically, we developed something that they could present at the fair, and the CEO was so proud that he went to the fair himself and presented to peers, suppliers, and clients the application. The other and the last strategy is actually to say maybe if we don't do AI, competition will catch up faster than we do. So a bit of fear can at times help. The next one is go beyond the traditional business case that is focusing mainly on hard benefits. There are many soft benefits that are coming with AI. It's innovative, so it can help to change the culture of the company. It can spice it up, the culture. It can act as a talent magnet to attract and retain key talents. So really think about those soft elements that you can bring to the company and externally as well in the press and the media. The next one is the mindset. I referred to waterfall approach earlier in the talk. AI project requires an agile mentality. You will probably have to pivot during your projects. So it's good to tell board or executives upfront that you have to look at this planning in a different way. It's going probably to be a series of sprints rather than a planning that will be delivered as planned. So buy your license to fail in that meeting. And the last one is there are risk and uncertainty, so manage them. And the first and obvious one is start small. Start something that it will not cost a lot if it's not successful. It's not a business critical application. And then when you have 1 or 2 successes, start to scale gradually and do it with a portfolio thinking. A portfolio thinking is if you had some investments. A portfolio is you invest in different shares, in different projects to ensure that actually on average you move on well, and that's actually the successes of some initiatives will compensate for the failure of other application. Then try to start with human augmented application rather than human replacement, because I mean people might fear for their job, and that might be slowing you down in your approach. And then, as I said before, AI can be a kind of a black box that can generate quite some fears as well, but they're often better than humans. So 5 key takeaways. First, know your board and demystify AI. Second, create a sense of urgency by linking it with the strategy. Third, go beyond the classical business case by promoting the soft elements. Fourth, promote an agile mentality. And 5, think about managing the fears of the people. This is it. I think I'm just in the required timing.
Thank you very much, François. We have a third speaker as well. He just arrived. Nathanael Ackerman, Director of AI for Belgium, if I'm right. Yes, that's right. You're the next one. First, Philippe? Okay, Philippe de Weert, sorry. My apologies. From Flanders Investment and Trade. You can enter the stage. I give you this mic.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see if my presentation comes up on the screen. So we've heard the previous speaker. You've convinced your boards. You have a very nice project. You can go ahead. And later on, you want to move also abroad. So I'm from Reperta. I work for Flanders Investment and Trade. What I do is the Science and Technology Coordinator. So I coordinate between a network outside of Belgium that helps high-tech startups and high-tech companies from Flanders to internationalize. It's the trade part from our name. For this, we delivered a number of services. So we advise and provide guidance to companies that want to go abroad, that want to do trade, that want to internationalize. And we help these companies from Flanders with their export plans. So there are a number of consultants from our agency, so we are not a government agency, that will help you to develop plans to internationalize and go abroad. And we also bring buyers into contact with companies from Flanders to buy their products. So you have your big plan, you want to move abroad, you want to go to other markets outside, and the question is, where are you going to start? What are you going to do exactly? And I'm going to illustrate this by the hand of an example. Really is a company that uses artificial intelligence to create a full facial reconstruction of a patient. So the data can come from CTA scans, they can come from images, and they will automatically give you a reconstruction of a patient's face. They wanted to move abroad, so they were looking for companies that will use dentistry software, for example, and they were looking at a number of markets, for example, France, Germany, Italy, where you have a well-developed healthcare. They reached out to my colleague, Haerick de Pomp. She's advisor internationalization from our office in Leuven. And she helped them to look at what are you going to do when you move abroad. And there are a number of questions will come up. We call them trade questions. For example, typically like, which taxes need to be paid there once I go there? What is the business culture? It's a very important one. IP protection, etc. We also give subsidies to companies if they want to start to internationalize. So there's a starter pack internationalization. So what did Haerick do? She went to the company, she asked, okay, which kind of markets do you want to go first? So they said, okay, Italy is for us a very important market, but we don't know how to start there. They were looking for companies that could use their software. So our office in the network in Italy, they were looking for companies that can use that software. They brought them into contact with VLAIO, and they brought them also into contact with the decision takers in the company. It resulted in a number of contracts that were signed by this company later on. They also organized site visits for VLAIO. So really went to Italy, they met all these companies, they met the CEOs of these companies, and it really cut them time in finding out who are the right persons to go to and how can you do the business there. Part of that experience for them was, what is the business culture like? The culture in Italy is completely different from what you have here in Belgium. If you go there in a Belgian-style sales pitch, it won't work. It's the same thing if you go to other countries. It will not work there. So learning how to do the business in a different culture, that is really, really very important. Another thing we had, for example, once you move outside Europe, one of their markets was, for example, Korea. They also did the same thing. They went to companies, visited them there. But you get questions about IP protection. How does it work there? You get questions about taxes. How does it work there? You are outside the European Union. It means that your VAT taxes are different. So they also get legal advice, they get financial advice, and you can also pack this in the international starter package, the starter package. So the package actually gives you about 7,000 euros maximum that you can use to hire services that can help you to internationalize. For example, you can hire legal experts, you can hire VAT experts, etc. It will also give you an opportunity on, for example, the contracts that you want to sign with other countries, because some countries will say, yes, you have to sign a contract under our legal system. What does that really mean once you do that? So that's how we, in practice, help companies that want to internationalize. I mentioned IMEC, she's one of my colleagues, but we also have a number of other different offices all around Flanders. They're all in these bigger cities, and these are people that will really help you to internationalize. Furthermore, we have an entire network over the entire world where there are colleagues from us. They are people that will help you locally with, for example, questions about the legal framework that you come into, red tape that you might encounter when you go to one of these countries. Also, they will help you with permitting, etc. Especially for me, I do the coordination between a number of technology attachés, as we call them. These are people that are technologically skilled, but also have the business skills, and they will be able to understand for tech companies what exactly is it that you're going to sell, what are you going to do, which kind of markets do you want to have. That kind of questions is typically what they will ask. And they will be able also to connect you to other technological companies. They can either be your clients, they can be partners, but they can also connect you with, for example, research ecosystems abroad. That's typically what these people are doing. If you really want to do some work yourself, because you can do some work upfront, you can go to our website. There is a lot of information about what events do we do in these countries, who are the people there, you can ask for assistance. That is typically what you can do. So if you really are thinking about exporting, you can take up contact with us, Flanders Investment and Trade. There will be somebody helping you. It will be a real person, it will not be a chatbot. We do use some artificial intelligence to help our companies and try to pick up signs about sales and about opportunities that you can have abroad. But if you want to do the internationalization, please take up contact with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philippe. And then, as already announced, the last speaker, Nathanael. Another technical support. The slides, all right. Give you the mic.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. That's so great to be in Ghent today. There are many events happening all around in Belgium, but also, as you have seen, maybe we have partnered with Expo Dubai 2020. So there is also this high-level forum on AI in Dubai that has started today. So we launched this initiative, European AI Week. I must stress that AI for Belgium is all others. It's not a federal initiative. It's thought as a bottom-up approach. It is there to support the regional plan and to align and help and support. So in the coordinated plan, what we say is that we must bet on trustworthy AI. So the AI we would develop in Europe is not the same in the use, in the design that we have in China, in the US. And we must, that is the first thing. And the second thing, and nobody, even Germany, France or UK, and UK is not more Europe, it's a bit complicated. It's big enough to face this global race. So we have to collaborate. And it is also true for Belgium. It is, and Belgium, moreover, has its position within Europe. So the purpose is to put forward the region, put forward the AI in Flanders plan, but also say we are working together, and we are working as a driving force to create the AI Alliance in Europe. So all the countries have set up a national coalition, and often including the regional initiatives. So they have different forms. As you know, I set up the Hub Francia in France, as I was advisor there, and we launched the first AI plan in Europe. So this is a private, purely private initiative, and now they are discussing integrating with the public services. Here in Belgium, we have, and that is really important for innovation and for the success also of internationalization, for example. We have a quadruple helix structure, meaning that we include the public sector, the private sector, academia, but also the civil society, meaning the NGOs, and as much as possible, the citizen. So for example, when we see the survey on the AI Alliance, you know that, Belgium is well positioned, and sometimes Belgium is the first, meaning that the Belgian citizens are a bit aware of what's happening in the debate about AI. So it's not much, citizens do not much participate to that, but Belgium is well ranked. And we must bet on this strength. So AI for Belgium is a grassroots community, bringing together all the experts from all the sectors, bringing together the region to put forward Belgium and its region at the European and global level. And the idea is not to be technology push without thinking about that, but do the things, because this revolution is there. So make the people and organization benefit from AI with a specific focus on ethics. And as you know, we are also very strong on these aspects. So we have identified more than 500 companies that are AI solution provider or AI product builder in Belgium. So we have a diverse ecosystem, but we are also strong in the ethical aspect. For example, as you know, Rob Heymans is there, but we have Peggy Valk, we have Nathalie Smua, we have many people involved in the international discussion about this aspect. So what I would like to stress here is that we have an original way of doing, including the public sector, private sector, and I think it is the best way to perform, and we have got some results already with that. Then we support the women in AI, so you are welcome on tomorrow night in Brussels if you want to come to the European AI Week reception, or on Thursday if you are interested for the Women in AI event. So I must, because it's the speaker challenge, note that Margaret Hamilton, once she developed this code, her code, at a computer that was less powerful than our actual phone. So what is the role of AI for Belgium? So we do help on many aspects, so you can always ask us for any information related to AI in Belgium. So we gather the information with the Vlaanderen. We do also consultation at the national level, including the region. Sometimes it's Flanders that suggests something in advance. Sometimes it's Wallonia. Sometimes it comes from us. Okay. So we do organize this week. We are also the national contact point for AI4EU. We have supported the elements of AI spread. But what's the most important in an ecosystem and coalition? Okay, 3 minutes, so, sorry, is really the values, so openness, the grassroots, an entrepreneurial mindset, focus on ethical and human-centric, share and give. That is the way we are doing. And we have 14 business groups. You are invited to participate. In some internal groups are over funding and about funding and about internationalization. So what we did in Wallonia, and I suggest we do it in Flanders also, is to give a class to all the advisors of FIT to explain what is exactly AI, how they can benefit from it, to put them in contact with the national coalition of the other countries, because we have many contacts in there, and propose together a program or support the program of FIT in terms of internationalization, attraction, and so. So as you know, I've had an international career, so I'm always pleased to help if you need some contacts in some countries, and I will do it with FIT. This is the organization of AI4 Belgium. I see Ferdinand in our board here, sitting there. So what are the KPI? Because sometimes we say, okay, we do many events, but events do not lead to anything, but that's not true. So the first thing is the mindset. And the second thing, these are the KPIs. So we have 4,000 members. So the list now, it's more than 6,000 people, but 4,000 have validated their membership. We have 80, we will see that. So the collaboration generated between the actors. So we act as a hub. The papers published help in accessing funding sources, project initiated and impact visibility at international level, in partnership and international partnership. These are the KPIs, and it means that it is always, I think, related to some people in some region. So these are KPIs, so you can see that we had more than 80,000 people participating to the activities in 2021, and more than 400 organizations. So this is a question of network and people. This is the main message, and this is how we speak in the press and in the international institution of our initiative, putting forward also Flanders. So, for example, a blog post of the European AI Alliance or the OCDE yesterday to support our initiative on Thursday night. So that means that Belgium, with its region, is more visible than ever than 3 years ago. So thank you.
Thank you, Nathanael. I think the message is clear. For all companies in Flanders, we need to reach out across the borders. We need to accelerate also other companies in adopting artificial intelligence. And we've seen also how Flanders Investment and Trade can help us with that. And we know also how to convince the board now. So thank you all for this session. Now we have a coffee break of 15 minutes. And after the break, there are again 2 parallel sessions. So the next one here is focusing on how to implement artificial intelligence. What are the new opportunities, for example, from VLAIO that's coming your way, focusing on artificial intelligence? And in the Grote Crypte, we do have the session on conversational artificial intelligence and on natural languages processing. I also need to mention that there is a lot of traction on Twitter at AI4Growth. So you can also join in over there. So thank you all and see you back in 15 minutes. Okay, welcome back in our session on how to implement artificial intelligence. And in this session, we want to zoom in a bit on what is available as support programs by the government, but also by other organizations. We do moderate the session as AI4Growth. Well, it is our mission to help every company active in AI to accelerate growth. There is one thing key, we think, if you want to accelerate, it's to connect. So it's our strong belief that if you connect, you can learn faster. And with whom do you need to connect? Well, of course, first of all, I think as supplier and customer, you need to connect. And if you can find a good common project, I think this is the first thing to jump on and to develop an AI project. I will come back to that. There are support programs which support just the collaboration between you and your supplier or customer. On the other hand, we have heard this morning, there's a lot of research ongoing on in Flanders. You might be triggered by some of the interests, or maybe you want to discover some of the results. And it's also to us to make it really easy to access all these results. That could be just publications, but also, of course, collaborations with researchers in a direct way. And a third thing, of course, is how can we connect amongst each other? And I think events as this event today should help us really to connect with peers on what are good tools to connect, how can we position the AI industry in the best possible way towards the government. So that's what we are also doing from AI4Growth perspective. I think there are also many hurdles if you want to talk with customers on potential AI projects. What we often hear is that there's not enough time, or it's not really a priority to focus together with you on an AI project. So there, the support programs can help as well. As said, from the AI4Growth community, we do organize two types of sessions. So today we are in an industry session and in the yearly conference, where we also want to inspire you with best practices and success stories, especially this afternoon in the different industry sessions. We do also have separate events, which we call the partner sessions. And there we share common experience in using cloud technology, for example, or we invite speakers just to share knowledge amongst AI suppliers. As I said, there are many support programs. So I think it's our goal in this session to help you to discover a bit what is meaningful in relation to artificial intelligence. In this session, we have representatives from Agoria, from VOCA, from the Flemish AI Academy, also from VLAIO. We had a speaker, but he got ill last night, but I will try to bring the key message from the VLAIO perspective. The session will be organized as short pitches, and for the remaining time, you can get the opportunity also to ask questions. So, as I said, so if you want to connect between supplier and customer, then there is the VLAIO KMO groeisubsidie, which could be of specific interest. I'll come back to that. If you want to connect with the AI community, I think we have the events from AI4Growth, from VOCA, from Agoria. We also have Beacon. We have AI4 Belgium. I think lots of things that are going on, and we want to help you to find your way in all these different initiatives. If you want to go more in the direction of moving beyond state-of-the-art, then connecting through TETRA projects, and there will be a separate presentation on it, but also through IMEC icon projects, or the AI icon projects can help you forward. So as said, these are the speakers for this session, and I will start with a short overview for VLAIO. So if you look at the typical journey of a company here from start to growth, let's say, there are different initiatives to support you, typically in a financial way. So the VLAIO support office can provide you with money. As a starter, in your first 2 years, you can get up to 50,000 euros if you have an ambitious startup plan. If you look at advice, if you want to start with AI, for example, in your company, and you would like to get some advice from an AI supplier company, then the KMO portefeuille, the SME e-wallet in English, is available just to ask for any type of advice. That is up to 7,500 euros a year. That can be interesting also as a supplier, just to inform your customers that is one channel. As I said, once you have a growth project in your company, then it's definitely worth to consider the KMO growth subsidy, the groeisubsidie, and especially for at the moment there is an open call. So yesterday it opened, the call on the groeisubsidie. It is open until the end of April, and there is especially a focus also on digitalization. And while if you would read the text, you would see that any advice can be financed, but it's important also to mention to you that we have been in discussion with VLAIO, and they also clearly stated that proof of concepts can be considered as part of the general number of advice. So if you want to build a practical algorithm or do a first type of feasibility, it's perfectly eligible to go for that type of fund. It can bring you a project of about 50,000 euros with up to 25,000 euros subsidies. There are next calls coming up also in July and in November. For completeness, we also have the more large projects, let's say, within VLAIO. And of course, also in these programs, you can position your AI projects. These are typically not related to SMEs only. So also as a large established company, you can benefit from it. And you can also go with a subcontractor in it. The O&O projects are typically to realize your own strategic roadmap. So then you go one-to-one to VLAIO with support, and then you can get also subcontractors for some parts of the research, etc. And for the development projects, it's the same. There, the project can be up to 3 million euros for one project, up to 50% finance. So this gives you a first view on what VLAIO can offer you. I just selected some programs which are most relevant in relation to artificial intelligence. So then I would like to introduce Katja Verbeek from Odyssey. She will talk about TETRA projects. So it's one type of project also financed by VLAIO, and where you have the opportunity as a company also to see and experience results from academic researchers.
Thank you. Is it okay if I stand here? Yeah, okay, so welcome. I hope I didn't do that. My name is Katja Verbeek. I'm working as a teacher at Odyssey University College. I'm teaching IT, so I have an IT background. I'm doing research in AI as well. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm up. So, and together with my colleague Saskia, Vandeneede, Lennart and Thomas, we did this TETRA project. The TETRA project is indeed a project funded by VLAIO. It's a collective project, which means that you work out some topic together with many companies. So you have an idea, like this is missing in industry, let's find some partners to work on it, and yeah, you work on prototypes as well, but the main idea is to help the SMEs in Flanders. What is important in our collaboration is that myself and Thomas, we are IT people, and Saskia and Lennart, these are marketeers. And this is something we found very interesting to do, because we lack this collaboration in between. Not only it's important for the project we did, but also for the teaching programs we have. We were already convinced that a marketeer today has to know about this digitalization, and the other way around, an IT student should learn this strategic thinking about where to go to with business. So we try to enforce each other in doing so. Okay, so the TETRA project, TETRA is standing for technology transfer. So actually the idea is that research done on an academic level, how to implement this in practice for the SMEs. So you really have to transfer academic results to really implementations in industry. And this is our role as a university college. We have to help companies in doing so. And next to this knowledge transfer, there's also, of course, our role is education as well. What about financing? VLAIO is offering, like most of the projects, 92%. So that means that whenever you have an idea to work out with the industry, that it has to be an idea that industry supports. Yeah, we really have this problem, so we really need this project, and that's why there's also co-funding involved. But as you can see, it's only 7.5%. I must say that the program we started, so the Start to AIM, which stands for Start Doing AI in Marketing, that our first meeting with our group of people from industry was in the week of the lockdown. So we did have our difficulties in the beginning, but okay, we finished now with the project, and in the end, it was a really nice project and nice cooperations coming from it. So this is a joint work of two research groups. Sensei is the group where Saskia is working in, stands for Center for Sustainable Entrepreneurship. And USE is the lab I'm working at Odyssey, which is user-centered electronics ICT. And for instance, we have a user experience lab in our offices. So my focus is intelligent software and data science, and the focus of Saskia and her group is digitalization. Okay, so why the Start to Aim project? Well, pre-corona, me and Saskia already had this idea how to work together and do something strategical and technical with companies. We visited a few AI conferences for industry, but we already had we had the idea that, okay, all these examples they give you from how to use AI in your business, it was all from the GAFAs, you know, the Googles, the Amazons, these big companies. So we imagined that an SMA going to these conferences might have think, and what is in from me? Do I have this much data as these big companies have, for instance? Do I have this experience? Can I already use AI algorithms in my small case? So this is something we wanted to do. We wanted to help them how to get started with their data and AI, because of course, first you have to look into the data, and there's already a lot of work there before even coming to using AI. So this is what we wanted to do. And it's not just AI for marketing. VLAIO thought that was too broad, so we boiled it down to personalization. How can an SMA use AI to go into marketing personalization? And we tried to bridge two target audiences to match them. And at one end, the SMEs, the end users, who are convinced that they had data and would take the next step to do something with this data in an automatic way. And on the other hand, there were also the marketing and the communication and sales agencies that, of course, help these SMEs with their processes, and they also wanted to learn more about AI. Some of the SMEs, the agencies in our project were already working on the AI part, others weren't yet. And then it was really a step-by-step approach. We did several cases. Some of them we implemented ourselves, others we did a matching with the technical partners in the project. In the end, we made a roadmap, and we made an ebook with this roadmap together with all the SMA cases we developed in the project. So we have several Flemish personalization use cases in our ebook. And the steps which are there, 1, 2, 3, 4, are in fact from this data mining cycle. There's a well-known data mining cycle that you should follow doing any data mining project. And we translated it for them on this case for personalization. So it was really a step-by-step approach that we translated it. And with the case studies which were involved in our project, we did all these steps. We had a lot of one-to-one sessions with SMEs concerning the strategical coaching and as well the technical coaching. And of course, it was always clear in which step of the, we call it the AIM model, but it's in fact just a tailor-made data mining cycle for them. It was always clear when to come to some technical points and when the strategical points, because you cannot start by doing AI from scratch. It's not like I'm going to use AI today, what am I going to use? So you have to get your goals very clear, and this is where marketeers come in really, really handy. We have several cases. For instance, we had the company Keynote in our case. They had also a lot of data and they were convinced that they should do something about it. So we worked with the marketeers from Keynote. But the thing was that there was indeed a lot of data, but it was very difficult to couple the data. And in fact, data was put into the systems by the salespersons. They have a lot of salespersons. And we all immediately saw that communication between marketing and sales was not really in one. They didn't share the same data culture. So these are the kind of problems you come into when you follow this AIM cycle. So you can find all these cases in our ebook, and I think we have a little promo in here. I'm not sure if it's just a slide or the movie included. I think it's just a slide. Okay, no problem. We had a nice demo movie for promoting our ebook, but you can find it on our website, which is starttoaim.be. And what you can also find there is that we ended the project, but we still are going to work out 2 workshops, a basic one, an advanced one. It's in Dutch, of course. The ebook is in Dutch as well. Starten met AI in marketing. Data as a starting point is the first one at the 28th of April at our technology campus here in Ghent. And the second one is Starten met AI in marketing, and then really go into the AI algorithms, which is the 2nd of June. So please check out our promo video and download our ebook. It's for free. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Katja. So then I will introduce our next speaker, who is Michiels de Geest from VOCA, and he will introduce us to the DG Hub.
Slides are ready to go. Let me check. Yeah, great. All right. So welcome everybody. I want to talk about today a little bit about DG Hub. There are a lot of programs going on, as you have seen, that focus on bringing companies together. DG Hub is a little bit different, where we see as the Chamber of Commerce, definitely local here in Ghent, we see a lot of companies and we see a lot of companies looking for information. But what we try to focus on is test before you invest. So it all started with that we see a lot of companies going to one of our partners. Sofaco is here, ML6, ML2Grow, and they are starting and building on those projects. That's great, we love that, but of course what we have in Ghent as well is a lot, and in East Flanders definitely, we have a lot of different partners. Partners that are high schools, universities, AI4Growth, where we can bring that knowledge to that local SME. And that's basically DG Hub. DG Hub is made for bringing it together. And as we saw this morning, we didn't saw her, but it was a video. So what we want to do is bring a connection between what the SME is looking for and all those different kind of knowledge partners. So why are we doing it? We try to provide some kind of digital readiness with SMEs. We do a digital scan. A scan is a little bit like an audit where we look at your company and how are you evolving and what are you doing. And those numbers are not really great. Those numbers that we see is that a lot of big companies already looking forward and moving forward into the digital experience and the digital possibilities. where we see, and definitely COVID was one of those things, is that the smaller companies are really looking for what's next. I have transformed my teams to work remote. I have worked there. What can I do? What is my next digital stuff so that I can really go into it? So what we have is try to goal with the DigiHub is providing as low as possible with an easy connection, bringing those SMEs to those knowledge partners. Knowledge partners, yes, we have a lot of knowledge partners. So almost every high school and university is brought together into DigiHub. For this region, I think we have around 12, but in total we have shy of 30 knowledge partners we bring together. And we don't look forward to the solution. We really look at the problem, and then we try to find with our experts which is the knowledge partner that we can bring you together. So how? We do customized approach. So it's not a kind of course. It's not a something you can online stuff. It's really we go into the companies and do an individual coaching program where we follow up, listen to what's the possibilities and what they are looking for, and then we are trying to follow it up. What we try to do is to be that Spock, be that project coach, try to facilitate. We don't have the knowledge in-house, but we try to facilitate what we can do, and we are as well being the promoter of it. So what, in a nutshell, we have 28 knowledge partners, and we try to be neutral because there are a lot of knowledge partners trying to go and reach to the SME directly. We try to be that DigiHub, come to us. We look at your problem, we look at your solution, and then we look at which kind of partners we can go and direct or guide you. And what that does in a nutshell is we try to promote cases. So, for example, we have an AI cases of a couple of weeks ago, a typical local SME that was trying to look something up with his data related to real estate and real estate possibilities. And the other side that we as well try to do as a Chamber of Commerce is, of course, we have all those partners. We try to provide a monthly roadshow. A monthly roadshow where we go, and I think this is an example of the one that we went to Series and Flanders make in Kortrijk, is where we try to promote and bring to highlight what they do. They all have the expertise, they have hundreds of labos, but the amount of stuff that they offer is enormous, and we try to highlight each month one of those things and bring it to the SME market. So in a nutshell, DigiHub is basically choose and prioritize your own digital projects. AI is definitely one of the cases, machine learning, but in theory, everything you want to do on a digital level, we can support and guide you. We do this for projects up to 25,000 euros. And we have a lot of partners involved, but the big kicker is, I think at this moment in time, we have one of the best cases that we have subsidized. 70% is subsidized. So in a typical case, really small case, what we did with Series 2 weeks ago, 10,000 euros, the SME only pays 3,000 euros for this. So we see this really as test to invest. Try to work with a partner, try to work with a knowledge provider, do something small, look what he can offer for you. We provide a lot of money from the government, and then you can do this and look for a different partner for the implementation. So it's really trying to highlight the possibilities, what they can look for it. It's really going and forcing almost the owner of a lot of companies like, hey, maybe machine learning is for you. We have a program in place. You only pay 30% of the total cost. Let's move forward. And then maybe next to that, we do a bigger project, then we look for a local partner, and then we move forward. So it's really the introduction phase that we're trying to do. And it's not a long approval process. I know people from VLAIO, he's not here. For us, we can do this within 24 hours. So if we see the case, we read it, we find a partner, or he already has some kind of relationship with a partner, within 24 hours, the case of DigiHub can be closed, and we can facilitate and move it on to the partner as well. So it's really fast, it's really low end, it's really approachable, and that's what we're trying to promote, is to use the DigiHub at SMEs to move forward. A couple of credentials where you can find the information, but there is one spot you can go. It's vocat.be/DigiHub. There we will provide you. You can fill in. You can already look what the examples of other cases that we made, and we are more than happy to facilitate. One small note, this is, again, for now it was been going on for a year, but with COVID, we get an extension of 6 months. So we have still a year and a half. So there's a lot of money still yet for companies to be used. And we have still 18 months for this project where we like to facilitate as many companies as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michiel. So if you want to explore and take your first steps, I think DigiHub can be a potential route to follow. Our next speaker is Ferdinand Kazier from Agoria, and he will also introduce us to the programs that they bring to market.
Yes, thank you, Wouter. So, good morning, everyone. So I am from Agoria and in charge of the different AI initiatives launched or supported by Agoria. Today I would like more to introduce the Industry Partnerschap program. It's a program with more than 17 partners. And within that program I will highlight two specific initiatives. I don't know how many companies are here in the room. A lot of, okay, some of them, okay. So I can already start maybe. So the Industry Partnerschap is a consortium of 17 partners in Flanders. And they have and our mission is to support Flemish companies in their digitization process, digitization journey on different aspects on AI, of course, in their AI journey, but also around cybersecurity and digitalization in general. So, seems it doesn't work here. So we have quite a lot of initiatives like masterclasses, for example, masterclasses on AI. We have different sessions. I will come back to this one. We have inspiration sessions. We have also guidance. Guidance is done by our partners of the consortium, like Ceres or IMEC or Flanders Make. And okay. Does it work or not? Does it work? Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. Good. So that's our industry partnership, also supported by VLAIO, of course. How does it work here? Okay, like this. So here you see the logos of the different partners of the partnership, and the three different blocks: digitalisering, duurzaamheid, and Industry 4.0. So, but I want to focus specifically on. Sorry, we'll do it like this. On this one, on AI, of course. I think we had already different presentations where you have seen the journey. First inspiration, of course, then how to start. I think the presentation of Nova Reperta was quite interesting about that, how to convince your board to start an AI project. And then afterwards, of course, you need to validate your project. And you can also, afterwards, also have learning networks. So these are the different steps we see in the AI journey. But today I mainly want to focus on first the AI inspiration sessions. These are sessions, online sessions of 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, with very concrete use cases from from Belgian Flemish companies. So you can see this is an example of past sessions. We organized sessions, for example, on HR, for HR people. And you can see on this slide, we had examples from SD Works, for example, how algorithms can help to reduce absenteeism. Looks quite interesting. And it's always a small presentation of 10 minutes, followed by a Q&A. So we have done almost 10 or 11 sessions like this one. And the use cases are always presented or by the end customer, or by the integrator, or both together. So then you have also the two sides. That's another example. We organized also a session around sales, marketing, and customer service with different use cases. And you can also see the companies here on the slide. The next session is tomorrow. We will have a session on how to support operators in a manufacturing environment. There's a session of tomorrow afternoon. And then next week, Friday, we have also a session more about small data, how to use more small data. It's not always a question of big data here. Yeah. Okay. Good. What I want to highlight here is a new initiative, and this initiative is launched today, actually. So it's a premiere for this event. It's called Start AI, and as Michiels mentioned, at DigiHubs you can work with knowledge institutions, with academic people. And here we would like to work with AI experts from the field, from the private sector, to support companies, SMEs, Flemish SMEs, in their more design thinking exercise on how to or why is AI really important for me. So it's a coaching, individual coaching of 3 days, given by AI experts from the field, and it's over a period of 4 months. What does that mean? It means that companies who are interested in this guidance, they can enter their form before the 15th of May, and then the mission will be done between beginning of June and end of September. So the why is really to investigate and map out how AI and data might be an opportunity for your business. So that's exactly the presentation we had before from Nova Reperta. It's why and how is AI important for my company? What are the possible use cases, the possible opportunities? Who are the stakeholders of my project? How should I prioritize the different use cases? What about the ROI and the value on investment, how I see this, and also to design a clear roadmap for the following steps. So that's what we want to do within these 3 days. You have 2 options if you are interested to follow this follow this initiative, or you can fill in your form and mention already a partner from the private sector you want to work with to do it, or you don't know with who you have to do it, and then there will be an expert panel who will propose a short list of 3 companies. So this expert panel is VLAIO, Agoria, and FOCA, actually. So the cost is 1,600 euros, so it's 30% of the full price of a 3-day guidance. So you have time up to 15th of May to participate to that initiative. So if you are interested, you can contact me, of course. I think that the main point here for this guidance is that you will be guided by people with concrete hands-on experience. They are day in, day out in the field. They have a lot of customers. They know how it works. And if you are more a company from, I don't know, from the manufacturing industry, then you will be linked with experts, AI experts, data experts, who have clear experience in that sector. So that's the strength, I think, of this program. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ferdinand. I think a very clear message. I think it's a program with a very low threshold to enter, and where experts can find each other. I want to introduce you to my next speaker, Professor Jeff Lafayette. He will talk about lifelong learning and the Flemish AI Academy.
Thank you, Wouter. I'll wait a second for the slides to be set up. Okay, yes, that looks excellent. Thank you. So we already heard about this this morning. Sabine mentioned us a few times. The Flanders AI program is very ambitious. We want to bring Belgium to the top of the world in terms of AI research, entrepreneurship, development, and adoption. So part of that, of course, means that there need to be appropriately skilled people available. So education is a very important aspect of this. So I'm Jeff Lafayette. I'm professor of data science at Ghent University ID Lab, and for 1 day a week I work at the Flanders AI Academy. So what is the Flanders AI Academy? We do lifelong learning about AI. So that's not bachelor and master. So it's mostly shorter courses where you want to learn about any type of aspect of AI. So we have two pillars. One track is for professionals and the other is for researchers and PhD students. From beginner to expert. So whether you want to learn about what is data science, machine learning and AI, or whether you want to learn about the state of the art, so the dissemination of state-of-the-art research results, we try to cover the whole spectrum. We are a collaboration of all universities and universities of applied sciences. And Agoria, Unizo, and VOCA are also our partners. So Ferdinand Carcier is in our steering group, for example. So how do we do this? We take three approaches. One is we amplify what already exists. So we try to index all available all courses that are given in Flanders, and also things maybe worldwide, MOOCs and things like that that would be interesting for people here. So we put these on our website, and sometimes we advertise things in our newsletter. I'll come back to that in a little bit. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we also just want to bring to the appropriate people courses that already exist. We do expertise and matchmaking. So we're an expertise center on lifelong learning, specifically in AI. So if you have educational needs, you can either as an individual go to our website or contact us, but also companies if they have educational needs. So we don't do tailor-made education for companies, but we can do matchmaking, for example. We create new courses. So if there exist gaps in the market, which is, to be fair, most of the market is probably a gap. So there are so many things not covered yet in terms of lifelong learning on AI. Then we try to find partners. So we don't create these courses ourselves, but it will be people at the universities, University of Applied Science, or the private sector that are going to teach this. I want to highlight a few small things before we can go to the next session. So this is a shot of our website. It's available both in Dutch and in English. So we index over 200 courses. Sabine also already mentioned this in the morning as well. It's continuously updated. Last week we actually announced our new website. And in this new version, educators can also add their own courses. So we have, if you go to our course calendar, so you can select, for example, the level of expertise that you already have to find appropriate courses. You can do keyword search, whether you get a certificate for this or not, what type of education it is, whether it's long running, short running, etc. So it's you can do more structured search through courses that are available. This is our newsletter. So of course we are involved in several events this week in the European AI Week. I suggest you all subscribe to this if you think it's relevant for you to know about what type of courses are available on the market. These are some examples of courses that we have created over the last year. So these are very general things like AI for general practitioners, robotic process automation, which was given for together with the VVSG, so it was for municipalities. It's also in the social sector, cultural heritage, but also specialist sessions, which was, for example, given together with ML6 about adversarial learning, which is a specific machine learning technique. Today and tomorrow, fairness and bias in natural language processing is running in Leuven. Later this month, there is a session on AI industry, so it's a full-day program on occupational health and safety, and also in our track for PhD students and researchers. We've had several seminar series, for example, around ethics, but not only for students in AI, so also, for example, students in the biomedical research sector. We had a long-running course with 10 sessions about an introduction to AI and machine learning for them. I want to very briefly highlight two things that might be interesting to you. Every Tuesday at 12:30, we have our VLAIO Presents. It's a 25-minute presentation from people either from academia or industry or government. So this is, if you want to learn more about what's happening in Flanders, and sometimes we have speakers from abroad as well. I encourage you to participate in that. You don't have to register, just click on the link on our website on Tuesday 12:30 to follow. And finally, we developed an intensive course on explainable and trustworthy artificial intelligence together with the Ukraine Academy for Engineers. This is starting, it will run on Monday evenings. It will be 10 sessions. For example, it's mostly teachers from Ghent University, but ML6 is also teaching 2 sessions. So if you already have some background in AI, it's focused on becoming more skilled. It requires programming knowledge to follow, so it's not generic. But you don't need to have deep expertise. If you want to learn more about explainability and trustworthy models, then I encourage you to consider following this. Yeah, that's where I'll leave it. Please check out our website.
Maybe one question for you. Can you elaborate a little bit on how to enroll and what is the cost associated with it?
You mean as an individual? Yeah, so it really depends on... So for example, our intensive course on explainable and trustworthy AI, that costs 1,600 euros to follow. But our courses that are given for PhD students, they are subsidized. So they're normally free for PhD students and researchers to follow. Yeah, so the costs vary depending on what type of course it is, the duration, and whether there's... whether we need equipment and things like that, whether it's catered, etc. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, and I think you can even use the KMO portefeuille, I think, for educational purposes. So even if there is a cost associated with it, I think it's good to get access to our top experts in the region. Thank you, Jeff, for your presentation. This concludes this session. We now have a short break, 5 minutes to switch rooms, and in 5 minutes in this room we start the session on AI and ethics. Thank you.
It's okay like this, or I still need to press the button? No, it's okay like this. Thank you. AI and ethics, and the room just became a little bit smaller, perhaps because I'm in between your lunch. And I think that's a great starting point for AI and ethics, because we've already heard this a few times today. For AI, you need to start small. I think for AI and ethics, you also need to start small. It's better to do something than to do nothing at all. And that's where this presentation will be about today. How could you impact society really practically by doing a few small steps? And instead of just giving a presentation from the Knowledge Center Data and Society on how to best do this, I invited as much pragmatic other experts that do this in their own businesses or organizations. Today we'll be having Caroline Adam, we'll have Anita Prinzi, Nele Gerrits and Pieter Duisburg, and a little bit of myself to explain how we tackled this question of how can you actually think about the impacts your AI system might have on society, and how can you then deal with this? And the first speaker is Caroline Adam from ML6.
All right, welcome everyone. So implementing ethics, ethical AI in an organization in practice can sometimes seem pretty challenging. So what I want to talk to you about today is how we at ML6, give you an example of how we at ML6 do this in our company. ML6 is a company that builds custom AI solutions for our clients. And we're looking at two questions today. How can we make sure that the solutions that we build do good, so have a positive effect on society? But also, how can we make sure that they don't cause unintentional harm? So how can we identify and mitigate risks along the way? So let's get started. A few years ago already, ethics was an important topic for ML6, meaning that we defined our principles, our red lines of how to deal with the ethical side of our AI solutions. But of course, principles are not enough, because we need to put these principles into practice. We need to find a way to structurally implement ethics into our ways of working and into our processes. And there we took a large step last year, where we built up the ethical, the slide seems to be a bit wrongly formatted, where we built up a team of ML6 agents dedicated to the topic of ethical AI. So a team that structurally looks at how can we implement ethics into our processes, into our ways of working. And the ethical AI unit has two purposes. The first one is being a sounding board. That means any new projects, any new sales leads that come up that might have some kind of ethical sensitivity, thinking, for example, that might fall in the future under the regulation, but also going beyond the regulation, they will be discussed in this sounding board. And in the sounding board, the goal is to identify risks early, to make sure we assess, for example, the need as well of a more in-depth ethical risk assessment, and to define mitigation actions to then implement during the design, during the development of our solutions. Now, you might wonder, why do we need a sounding board for that? Well, there's not always a right answer to an ethical question, all right? So we do need a diverse set of people, a diverse group of people from different backgrounds, different genders, different departments as well, to bring in their perspective, to assess the risks of a solution. And this is what our ethical AI unit does. We have agents from sales, from engineering, from security, coming together to discuss these cases and identify the risks. And we'll always make a weighting between what are the benefits and what are the risks of a solution, making sure that if there's too many risks that cannot be mitigated, we might even say no to a certain project. The other mission of the ethics unit is to work on different initiatives, meaning, for example, developing best practices to implement during the development of our solutions, thinking about bias mitigation, thinking about explainability, but also to share knowledge with our whole organizations to be able to create awareness with our people. And of course, keeping up with the latest development and being able to advise our clients as well on the risks they are facing, on helping them assess the risks of their solutions. Now, during the course of building up this unit, we have had some learnings that I want to share with you for any organization that might think about more structurally integrating ethics into their processes. First of all, getting leadership buy-in. Developing or working with ethics usually needs coordination between different departments, meaning that there's also sometimes conflicting incentives. Having that buy-in from leadership can really help. Second, related to that, is focusing on the value ethical AI can have as well. We don't just do ethics for the sake of it, but we actually do it to increase trust with people, to increase adoption of our solution, to motivate employees as well, and of course to mitigate risks. So find the value ethical AI has for your company. Third of all, creating awareness in the organization. Not everyone needs to be an expert in ethical AI, but everyone in the organization working with or close to AI should have a basic understanding of what are potential risks and be able to flag them to the people that are more of the experts. And last but not least, defining processes together. Try to work with the people who are closest to their everyday way of working and work actively together, also leveraging the existing processes to start adding ethics on top of that. And with that, I'm already done. That was it in a nutshell. And
I know it's unethical to give people such little time to present about AI and ethics, but there's no other way. Our next speaker is not going to talk about ethics as risks, but ethics as an opportunity. Pieter Duisburg from Kenniscentrum Data en Maatschappij en AMAI.
Good day, everyone. Okay, I'm Pieter Duisburg from the Knowledge Center, Data and Society. Not going to spend too much time explaining what we do. We have a huge information booth here in the hallway, so please check it out. I'm here to tell you a bit more about the AMAI project, which is a project for actually the society at large that wants to create more awareness about AI with each, in the end, every Flemish person who that we reach, but also to give that person impact, to make sure that that person can contribute to AI innovations. And we do this by, within this project, by making people more aware of how AI is already part of their lives. I think for the people here in this, the room, it's quite obvious, but for most people, this is still a very futuristic story almost, something that maybe scares them or completely does not interest them. So we want to make this more tangible and more concrete. How is AI already part of your life, but also give citizens the opportunity. So now that you are aware of this, how would you want that technology to contribute to your life? We don't have the time to fully explain to you how we do that. But what is important here is that we basically collect ideas from citizens on how they want AI to change their lives. And then we give consortia the opportunity to realize those ideas. Last year, we collected over 350 ideas, and in a few steps, these led to 4 projects that are currently running. Projects, for instance, on diabetes, a project that creates a tree map based on image recognition, a project that gives you it's on cycling roads and the condition of cycling roads more precisely, and also another project that looks into live subtitling in the classroom. 4 projects that are, I think, very tangible, and they have a double purpose. On the one hand, they make it more concrete for people to understand what is AI and how can it contribute to my life, but also there are citizen science projects, so people can contribute themselves in these projects by, for instance, annotating data, by co-creating what the solution should look like. So we focus on creating awareness on AI and by creating positive impact, by giving people a voice in how innovation should evolve and how they want to be part of it. And this was just in a few seconds what we did last year, and IMEC actually relaunches today. We are doing this for the second time with a few changes. We want to collect more ideas. We want to be more in the field because, of course, last year was a COVID year. So today we want to be at events where we can reach out to people and hear their ideas for our projects. And why am I telling this at AI4Growth? Because I think people here in the room are not our main audience. You are not ordinary citizens, but you are well informed on what AI can do. But I think it could be interesting for the people here to submit, to take part in these projects by submitting your proposal in our project call. Because these ideas that we get from citizens, we actually cluster them and we organize a project call. It will be launched in July, where you can submit your proposal to actually realize one of these ideas from citizens. So I all encourage you to look out for that and be part of that, and also have this societal impact that you might be want to create. More information on the IMEC project on our website, and of course also at our information stand here. So come and visit us.
Thank you, Peter, for again staying within the 5 minutes limits. And now we have Nele Gerrits from Vito. When I started a discussion on doing a presentation together about the ethics of AI in medicine, I promised her 20 minutes. And now she only has 5. So good luck, Nele.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Okay, so my name is Nele and I'm part of the AI4Health team at Vito. And the expertise of our team is on deep learning for medical image analysis. For instance, in the summer of 2021, we've created a spin-off company called Mona, and Mona is commercializing deep learning models that can detect eye diseases fully automatically on fundus images. Now, the current focus of our team is on how to enable trustworthy medical AI, and this from a pure technical perspective. For example, we are investigating how we can quantify the technical robustness of medical AI. Another aspect we are looking into is medical AI once it is deployed. And one good practice I can already give to you is do not leave your medical AI unattended once it is deployed in clinical practice. Now let's dive deeper into why that is. So here you can see the AI product lifecycle, and what's typically is done is during the AI model testing phase is that the model with the highest performance on the test set is selected for deployment. So this test set, we call it the lab environment, so we call it the lab performance, but this is exactly the problem. This lab performance is a bad indicator of what the real world performance will be. So the real world performance, what do I mean with that? That's the performance that we observe whenever the medical AI is deployed in practice. So one reason for a drop in performance, or why the real world performance deteriorates from the lab performance, is, for example, a shift in data distribution when we compare it to the training data. This is an example of Google. So for example, if we train a model on a Caucasian population and we deploy it on a Thai population, we will see that AI models will cannot deal with the differences in the data. So fundus images of different ethnicities, they look somehow different because of the variety in pigment. And we say AI models can badly generalize over those small differences in the data. So they start making more and more mistakes. And a result of that is that the performance drops. Now, ethnicity is just one of the many reasons why data distribution can shift in clinical practice. Other examples are using other camera devices that were present in the training data, or having another image quality, or a bad image quality, or the images are probably also differently centered, for example, or there are unseen disease patterns in the image happening. But these are all reasons why data can shift when compared to the training data, and AI models cannot deal with that, and the performance can drop. So this data distribution shift is just one example why we can have a lower performance in clinical practice. For example, bias present in your model is another example. But to conclude this slide, it's impossible to ensure an adequate performance for all relevant subgroups whenever the model is deployed in clinical practice. Now, what's the solution? As I've said, do not leave your medical AI unattended. So the current solution is manual monitoring. So medical AI providers are at the moment hiring medical experts to babysit the AI, to control predictions, to get an accurate prediction, an accurate image of what the real world performance is. So as you can imagine, this is very labor intensive, it's expensive, and scalability becomes an issue. Now, what's the aim of our team at VITO, the AI4Health team, is we want to make smart, efficient monitoring possible. So we want to downscale the need for manual monitoring while still ensure an adequate performance level in real time. So we want to incorporate models' uncertainty, anomalies, and also statistical and machine learning techniques. This way, the promised performance levels, you reach them, or you're sure that you reach them, or you are aware when you are not reaching them, and this with a minimal amount of manual monitoring or manual labeling. And then scalability becomes possible again. Okay, so I'm underneath my 5 minutes then. So thank you.
Wow, Nele, thank you. Going under those 5 minutes is really crazy. Thank you for that. And still, you were very clear, so that's great as well. Our next speaker is Anita Prinzi from Omar Technologies, who will tell you more about where and when you should, I think, assess your technology.
Thank you. Nice that you are still all here just before lunch break. So indeed, I'm Anita. I'm working as a product manager at Omar Technologies, and we are a company in ethical and trustworthy AI. Today, I want to take away your fear for the upcoming European legislation. So probably you all heard that the European Union will come up with a new legislation on AI, and I know I have been reading the boring document myself. It wasn't easy, but I think there are some baby steps you already can do today. So to prepare for the upcoming certifications for high-risk AI applications. So let's dig into that. Don't be too scared by my diagram. I will take you through it. So basically the idea is that if you want to be ready for certification, the only thing you need to do is to approach this more from a risk management perspective. Most companies already have risk management procedures. So that's the good news. If you already have those risk management procedures, you could already implement some additional risk management procedures to get ready. Now, to document this diagram, so the idea is that we're gonna try to come to the development of trustworthy AI that is compliant with the upcoming legislation. But we start from the legal background, which is on the left. So the upcoming European legislation. There's some other legal requirements. And on the other hand, there's also some ethical principles in every society. So there are ethical principles proposed by the OECD, for example, such as fairness. Other things that live up there in the ethical space are ethical guidelines. You have institutional ethical guidelines. You can have ethical guidelines as a company as well. So that's something you can do today, have your own ethical guidelines. To translate this, so the European Union has the European Ethics Guidelines for Trustworthy AI, and they have translated the fairness principle into a guideline of avoiding unfair bias, okay? So the thing is that just with ethics and law, you will not get to trustworthy AI solutions. So you need some translation. What can you do today as a company? So now it becomes really interesting for you as a company to listen. So what can you do today? First of all, I would recommend to have a good ethics board. Some companies already have an ethics board. The thing that you need there is that your members in the ethics board, they need to become AI literate. So that's why we provide AI governance trainings to such ethical boards to make sure whenever there are some ethical challenges identified by AI solutions, that we can help them to recognize what are the potential risks and what could your team in your organization actually do. The second thing is that, so the ethical board has to reflect about a functional definition of what is fair. So what is a fair credit allocation? What is fair treatment? The second thing you can do is having your own ethical checklist, but what I would advise actually is to use a very good ethical checklist, which is provided by Deon. Just look it up on on the web. They give you some technical checks you can even embed into your GitHub pipeline. But obviously, sometimes you also need not only technical checks, you also need to reflect on physical, more psychological and priorities. The third thing you can do is actually to adopt trustworthy AI by design. So what you do there is actually some of those checks, the technical checks, you can embed into your process. And that's actually related to privacy by design. So you can either go for open source packages such as AX360 or, for example, adopt our software Justify. Finally, I will end up with the validation. So even given your best intentions, it might not end up actually in trustworthy AI solution. So that's why there is a validation phase. So what you do there is actually you can do already an alti assessment where you actually try to assess whether your solutions are really trustworthy. In the future, it will evolve towards more checklists. Do it continuously, that's our advice. We can help you completing that. Also, what is coming up, auditing for high risk AI solutions. What is possible is that we do pre-audit to make sure that you're ready for that certification. And finally, you have the certification. So given that you have this continuous loop of translation, validation from the law and the ethical background, you end up with trustworthy AI solutions. And of course, it will be a learning process, but we are here to guide you through it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. All right, and now to the final slide set from Rob Heijman. That's me, so I don't need to do an introduction. I want to talk about a concept, the wall of awful. I learned about this because my girlfriend thinks I'm an HDADer, because our home is very disorganized and my life in general is quite disorganized. And the wall of awful is this idea that the longer you wait with a task, the more hairy and disgusting it becomes to look at it. And I recognize this pattern. If I don't do something immediately, yeah, it gathers dust, and I think it's growing even out of proportion into something I will never be able to manage. And I think this is a challenge for ethics and law. So these two things combined to create trustworthy AI. If you wait too long, you'll create this wall of awful. I think Anita already talked about this. Starting early is really important. Caroline also mentioned that if you have a team of people who are aware about AI and well-versed in some of these aspects, these people can start working on it as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the hairier it'll get. I have the feeling with law, it's even worse. Especially when you want to talk about law, which is still in the making, like the AI Act. It's really difficult to understand what is happening. And that's why I wanted to talk about the first initiative to kind of take down this wall of awful. And taking down this wall of awful means policy prototyping, pushing legal people and legislators to translate, which I also enjoyed a lot. We really need to translate this stuff into something manageable and understandable. And so here you see a very unmanageable flowchart of our survey. Our survey is very clear and crisp and easy to use, where we ask, is your AI system going to be a forbidden application or a high-risk application? And that way, companies can already learn today, and other organizations, whether this makes sense to them. And if it doesn't make sense, well, they should contact other people to make sure that policy changes are made. So break down the wall of waffle by making it easy to understand and manageable to act upon. Another tool which I really like is the one where Nathanael and the ethical law board, the Board of Ethics and Law, I mean, work together on creating a practical assessment tool out of the less practical high-level expert group AI assessment lists. And one of the coolest things I've seen there is that they simply used a Kanban board and names of team members to make sure that all the aspects of trustworthy AI are allocated to the right people. We also learned that most companies don't have the right people yet. And that's interesting feedback as well. Doing trustworthy AI for the moment is very difficult because a lot of people don't have the experience yet. So I fully support the idea of training people in becoming AI and ethics or trustworthy AI literates. And that's how you take down the wall. Other ways you can take down the wall is, I think, by calling us. We are a knowledge center, data and society. And if you have a problem, don't let it fester for too long. Just call us and we'll see that we can guide you to one of the many tools we have on our website, or maybe to one of the workshops we will be hosting this year. I hope I stayed within my own 5 minutes. I didn't time myself, which is very unfair. So let's start with a debate. I have some questions prepared for the panel. And if we still have time, which we have because the panelists have been very on time, we can also answer questions from the public. I had the first question for Peter. Is your smartphone still okay? Okay, but let's have a small discussion here. I just have to check my first question, which I wrote down here. What are we paying too much attention to when we talk about AI and ethics? You can raise your hand if you want to go first.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we pay too much attention to the technical aspect of it. So we are thinking that ethics can be reduced to choosing the right group fairness metric. To some extent, that's true. But the first question that you need to ask yourself is, what do I mean when I want to allocate or admit a patient in a fair way to the ICU? That's first thing. Is something that the ethical board and AI ethicists have to make a decision on. And then the AI technical person can look into the library of group fairness metrics and actually choose the right metric. But I think having a focus on the process and also on the functional priorities is something that is overlooked sometimes.
Great, thanks. Nobody else wants to add, so I'll go to the next. You want to add a little bit?
I'm going to turn the question around. Maybe not what do we not pay enough attention to, but what should we pay more attention to? And maybe it's because of on my project that I look more at the technology from society at large and the resistance there often is towards introducing this technology in society, but also in organizations, companies, and the change management that is required to really ensure the uptake of this technology, I think should get more attention. And also the digital inclusion aspects, again, from a society at large, it's like two very different speeds when you, on the one hand, see the topics that we discussed today, and on the other hand, you see ordinary people not even having access to technologies or not having the right skills. And I think that is something that is currently mostly lacking in AI debates and maybe should be more part of it. So yeah.
Thanks, Peter. Then I'll move to the next question. Really important one. If you want to get started with AI in your organization, what is the first thing you should pay attention to with regard to ethics, Caroline?
All right. So I think there's a bit two levels, and I already mentioned them a bit. So on really a project on a use case level, it's starting with identifying the risks, right? Even getting some knowledge of what risks does my application have, how could I mitigate them afterwards, how could I design, how could I develop the solution. On the more organizational risks, I mentioned it earlier as well, creating this awareness. I think everyone having the reflexes to raise certain ethical questions, to have an understanding of what could be risks and be able to flag them to the appropriate people is important.
It's a bit a reciting of Immanuel Kant. Everyone is an ethical being. But it's true, and I think we sometimes forget this with all the ethical experts. It seems you need a degree in philosophy to get started, and that's not true.
Yeah, I'm not an ethical expert myself, so I'm working in a research environment, so we're not always fully aware of the ethical part of our AI research, but one of the low-hanging fruits, one of the things that you at least should do, in my opinion, is, for example, for our deep learning models that are at the moment commercialized, we did a very extensive evaluation. So we looked at our test set, but we had also metadata present, and we stratified the data, and we looked at relevant subgroups, how the performance is changing. For example, ethnicities, different camera devices, different age groups, male versus females, etc. So we did a very extensive evaluation. We also looked at very public data sets, a lot of them, just to get a view of how good is our model really working. Is it generalized over different ethnicities, etc. So I think doing your evaluation as extensive as possible is also really important to know where it is failing. But that's just from a very technical perspective.
Thank you. From a communications perspective, one of the first things I always think of that a lot of people forget, and it could have been part of the previous question as well, is publish if you're doing stuff around ethics. A lot of organizations never mention that they tested their model quite extensively, or that they have an ethics board, and that's really important as one of the steps as well, to just let the audience know that you're really doing your best, or at least taking steps forward. Okay, then we can move to the next question before I open the floor for questions from the audience. If you look at the AI Act, for example, what are things we need to do first in Flanders to make sure that this is implemented in a workable way for Flanders and its different organizations?
I can get started. So I think one thing that we'll need in the next coming months, years, is to make this translation into practice. So how do we actually, let's say, also standardization, how do we get to a practical approach to making the regulation reality? The other side, I'm just going to mention it quickly and then leave the floor to the others as well, is making sure that we do not hinder innovation with the regulation. So making sure to support also smaller companies to be able to still experiment, to be able, without having a huge upfront costs, for example. So making that possible still.
Okay, great. I know Anita wants to add something as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to promote AI for Humanity. That's an organization that actually already tries to translate the European AI Act into some regulation and practical things that you can implement. And what they do with a lot of regulations, not only with the upcoming EU Act, is that they go in negotiation with the institute. So they go into negotiation with the European Union to find out if a company would do this kind of logging, would that be compliant according to your law? And that's the thing I like. It's something not for institutions to be a member of. It's only individuals that can become a member, but they're very open-minded. You can contribute to their workshops. And I think that's a good way to learn also and to reflect for yourself. What can it mean if I have to implement the European AI Act tomorrow for my company? That's also what we do. I'm a member of it and I really like it. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there questions from the audience? Who has a question? There are questions, that's great. You can come in front. I'm looking at the person with the red bonnet, then the person over there, and then you as a third.
Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa. I'm an AI coach for Recode, organization that tries to improve the tech market by training individuals from diverse backgrounds to become AI and data professionals. The question comes mostly because of the digital inclusion piece that you mentioned, Peter, and I would be interested in everyone's opinions. I think something that I see as an AI coach is access to AI, not only from the knowledge perspective as citizens, but also including people from different backgrounds that have different perspectives in these jobs that are pushing innovation forward. I see it as a very ethical issue as well that extends beyond the model per se. So I would love to see your input on, yeah, what can we do to increase the access of diverse individuals to the AI and data field so they can, you know, be in those conversations. Because at the time, none of them are, or most of them won't have the background we expect, right? So how do we bridge the gap? Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Who wants to answer this difficult question of increasing access? Anita?
I will start and then I give the floor to you because I know you have an answer too. I will help you around. Well, basically, one thing you can do is making sure, I will give you a hint, don't worry. One of the things you can do is, of course, making sure that those people of different different ethnicity, for example, different protected groups, that they actually become employees and help build the development, help build the AI solution. The other thing you can do is making sure that if you have an ethical board, make sure that they represent the people you're going to build AI solutions for. Because often there's the blind spot, and that's something that you have been working on as well. A lot of blind spots is because we are thinking from our Caucasian background. The other thing you can do is about data collection, and that's something I think you already hinted on, like making sure that the data you train on is actually representative for the problem that you try to solve. So maybe you can add a few words on that, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. No, that's true. I will not add too much about it, but your data quality and how representative is for the problem you want to solve is very, very important. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it with that.
That's great because we already have another question right here.
Well, data is just my point. In fact, I think, and I presume as an applied economist, that you lose too much time in brain power in this ethics at the moment because we don't have very much yet to offer to the market or to the world in artificial intelligence. And I thought, as the oldest guy here probably, I'm 82 years old, that after Corona, all attention should jump on health, gezondheid. What do I see? Not much interest. I have a patent which I established in 2019 on the ultimate health app that also could have become a dynamic corona monitoring device. But whatever I try here in Belgium, there is not much interest in health. Nevertheless, I think after corona, if there should be something that we are concerned about, is our health. And preserving our health, watching our health, and taking our health control under personal control with an app on your smartphone. In fact, I'm now looking at all the guys or all the companies globally that developed Corona apps to transform them to a health app. And then concretely for Belgium, that's what I say, don't spend too much time yet on ethics, although as an economist, I consider ethics important as well, evidently. But in Belgium, if we would try to develop something in the health sector, do you know that we are a primitive country in the Middle Ages for electronic health records? If you go to a foreign country now at the moment and you get sick, what can you tell the people? Don't inject me that or that. We have nothing.
Is that your question? Because
my question is where, well, my question and my remark and my urgent remark is that all people and all organizations with power should urge our politicians and the responsible people that our health data become connected and electronic, digital, so that we can work on this data. That's the essence, that's the basis, and nobody talks about.
Thank you for this intelligent remark. We move on to the next question, or you can already sit yourself. Is there someone from the panel who wants to add something to this remark about health data being required to be centralized more so that we can do more with it? I was expecting someone from Vito.
I just want to mention the initiative of Flanders on the solid labs. I think they are doing they are putting some energy in the data problem.
Yes, I think Solid and the Data Nutsbedrijf are two concrete initiatives where this is in the scope. I'm going to ask you to move here because then you're also visible to the people online.
Thank you. Okay, well, you definitely don't look 82, so you're doing well health-wise, I think. My question is, how do you convince companies that think that AI is just like this fuzzy concept? How do you convince companies to look at it more seriously and not think of it as a fuzzy concept, to take it seriously?
May I expand that question generally? How to make sure AI is not a too fuzzy concept so that people don't, well, just wait and do nothing with it? And I think Peter had to answer that question several times in AMAI.
It's a good question. I don't have the full answer, but I think to make it more tangible and to make it more concrete is always the best solution, because we tend to talk about it in these terms of life-changing almost and revolutionary, and I think to make it smaller and to make it more concrete, just as the ethics as well, that helps to take the fuzziness away, and that's something that we, and I might try to do all the time with these type of small stories on our websites, with just giving small examples, and for even citizens. I mean, of course, companies, they're just citizens as well, but that helps. And of course, we try to incorporate the big concepts of AI in those examples, but we start from their own experiences, what they find important, and use that as a starting point to talk about AI and how it can be part of that context and that situation.
Just to add to that, I think making it practical indeed, also showing case studies of successful use cases that have been implemented with AI, by the way, also with ethical AI, let's say, for example, with explainability, really showing an example of how explainability helped to create more adoption, to create more trust with stakeholders, and actually created business value that makes it very practical then to also take the fuzziness out of it.
So yeah, indeed, to really incorporate AI into practice, people want to see evidence. For example, for our own spin-off company, Mona, at the moment we are doing a prospective study to show them what's the performance of our model and how can it be incorporated in Flemish hospitals, and what's the cost-effective ratio. So I think evidence is really important to convince people.
Sorry. Yeah, I would like to add that it's also important to think about your strategic priorities as a company, and then to think about how would data insights help me to actually reach those strategic priorities. And then AI might be one of the tools that you would use, but maybe it's an Excel file on top of the data BI dashboard that you're going to build. So for me, it's still more about making sure to understand and that data can help you to reach certain strategic priorities, and then making sure that the people in your organization have some basic AI literacy. They don't have to become coders, but they need to understand which kind of use cases can actually be tackled with AI, and I think that might help.
I just put myself in the line for a small suggestion, and then we'll finish this session. I learned the most about AI. Another personal fact, I'm not only someone with an attention disorder apparently, but I'm also a home brewer. And I learned the most about AI when I saw AI-generated recipes. They were complete bogus, but I could understand what technique was used and why they were bogus in the first place. So I think demystifying AI for the general audience is actually inviting everyone who can work with AI to pick out a hobby project, someone everyone knows, and to apply AI to that thing, because that way everyone understands what's happening in the first place. One of the biggest problems we have with AI right now is that they're only working on business applications or scientific applications, and these problems are so complex that most people don't even know why they're being solved in the first place, because they don't understand the problem. while household problems are something we all have to deal with. Okay, I want to thank my panel and the audience for staying within time. This is really great. I hope to re-invite you for other ethical panels in the near future. Thank you for coming and thank you for your presentations.
And with recipes, we can make a smooth transition to the lunch break. So this closes the morning program. If you want to stay here for the afternoon program, we are happy to invite you to the lunch. We are all back in this room at 2 o'clock for, first of all, a plenary session. It will be a keynote from Belfius. Thank you all and talk to you in an hour.